search engine. Ukiweka jina ya wakili itakutolea kama ako active ama ako inactive. Na jina yake isipoonekana inamaanisha ule mtu si wakili.
Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya has affirmed that the opposition will continue to play its oversight role and criticize the government when necessary. He said an active opposition is essential for accountability and good governance, warning that silence could weaken democracy. Natembeya also urged citizens to support leaders advocating for transparency and justice and called on government officials to heed public concerns.
The politics of deceit. Since wakati tulishindwa kura, Rais Ruto akashindwa kura, by law we are obligated to remain in the opposition and keep the government on its toes. This idea of making those of us in the opposition feel guilty will not work. Maana serikali lazima waambie mmefanya makosa hapa. Sisi wote uko ndani ya serikali tunaenda kufanya njama ya kugandamiza mwananchi. Hamtawahi sikia mambo kama hizi yanafanyika mtasikia. Our day is coming because I know Kenya deserves better. Ya kugandamiza taifa la Kenya, they cannot pretend today kwamba they can move this country to the first world. They can't because they've got no idea. Sawa.
Fears are mounting of mass killings in the key Sudanese city of El Fasher after the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces or RSF captured it from government forces. In an address on Monday evening, Sudan's military chief General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan said he'd approved the withdrawal of troops in response to the systematic destruction and killing of civilians. The UN said there were credible reports of summary executions, while Yale University's Humanitarian Research Lab referred to satellite imagery of piles of bodies executed en masse. The RSF has denied accusations of killing civilians and targeting non-Arab ethnic groups, despite evidence presented by the UN and human rights organizations. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we may find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
He is himself actually has admitted that he bribed members of parliament.
He admitted that he bribed members of parliament?
Well, when he said
the government,
when he said that he gave the 10 million was for what?
We're always quick to point faults in somebody else before you look at your own faults as a person.
If it was Kanu's day, hii amuka naye leo, ungekuwa umeenda bali sana hii. So we must celebrate you.
There are 600 million people now globally estimated to be living with diabetes in the world. So it is a major health problem. It's the largest single disease rising pandemic that we're dealing with right now.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who are initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting. People went there, sat, listened, looked at him. There was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning. It rained the whole night, even though tunanza asubuhi. Good morning, good morning. Wait. Talk again.
Yeah. That's a good.
EVE bwana. It's here, it's not here. Just try and imagine it again.
Imagine.
Bado.
Okay.
Sijui hivi inafanya. Okari, say good morning to the watu.
Good morning.
Bas hata yeye Okari yake good morning yake iko sawa. Hebu jaribu tena.
Good morning yangu imefika.
Very good. Imefika. Thank you very much. How are you doing this morning?
Salama sana.
How was your night?
Full of rain, beautiful.
Hey man, there's just something about that rain, I gotta tell you.
Started at around 6:30. So.
Yeah, and it did the thing proper. See now,
so it rained everywhere
until Saturday. Now Saturday you see the sun shining with her cousins. We used to rain for us.
But there's that song, Mvua inanyesha, jua yawaka. Yeah, where did those guys go to?
Which guys?
Which guys?
I think it was Sana, that group from Coca-Cola something.
Which group?
I don't know.
It was a girls group, huh? I don't know somebody. There was a girls group. It was a band, okay.
Yeah, 2 girls and a boy. No. Yeah, anyway, yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about, so I'm fine over here in my corner.
Yeah, Ndun just knows Keith Sweat.
What? I was not here in the country when those. If I had known, it's like if you ask me about
How many things do you know about this country and you're not here?
Well, that's different. How was I supposed to know about a girl band who sang about Coca-Cola?
Because you sing.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah.
Singers know other singers.
Singers know other singers. Yes. That's different. Like the bands that used to sing when you were growing up and stuff. How would you know if you're not in the culture?
Okay.
Shebi, it makes sense, Abby.
You get away with that.
Thanks.
Just for now.
It makes sense if you think about it.
So the weatherman is saying what? These rains will continue until when?
Until well into towards the end of November is what we are being told.
What?
Yep.
Towards end of November?
Yes.
Like daily?
Well, it's going to be like this. The whole 12 hours that ago, they talk about it in terms of, the measurement of rain, inches of rain, centimeter, but it's going to be quite some. The southern lowlands, the northern highlands, the wind passing through the peninsula.
Will experience below average
rainfall.
2 millimeter.
2 millimeter, and then the clouds, nimbus and cumulus, will be forming over the eastern peninsula towards the lowland plains of the Serengeti.
In the central highlands of the highlands of the country will experience above normal rainfall. Those who are living in the lowlands have been advised to move to the highland.
But it's very clear, you will know lowland and highland.
Because there is fear of what?
You remember windward and leeward?
Leeward.
Yes.
Yeah, those ones.
Yeah?
Mounted. Come on.
No, I was just confirming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good days.
It's true. But when I'm a student of history, so we did a lot of history. Of course, we knew, and even our natural sciences, geography, we knew about the Rift Valley. People think the Rift Valley is only yours. It's not. It comes all the way from Namibia, crossing.
There's a Rift Valley in Nigeria.
I said Namibia.
Oh.
The Rift Valley comes all the way from Namibia through to the eastern part. We studied those things. We studied about the Maasai of Kenya and the Maasai of Tanzania. We knew these things.
You read that in history?
Yeah.
Okay.
About the Maasai?
Yeah, shut up. I know what you're doing. Go away.
Maasai of Kenya and Tanzania.
Not.
People studied Cambridge.
I know.
You don't know.
Hey, God in heaven. I should just learn to close my mouth.
When your curriculum
But
is
you guys didn't learn about the Fulani of West Africa. You didn't learn about those
No,
people.
we studied the Berlin Conference.
Hey, Germany. You didn't read about Usman Danfodio and the Mali Kingdom and the Songhai Kingdom. You didn't read about those things in school?
No.
Oh my Lord.
We studied Vasco da Gama.
People who went to America. The people who were in Africa, you didn't read about.
No.
Oh no. You need to read those things. Very, very
The government had a monument.
For Jesus.
Yeah. That's what happens when your education system is in numericals.
Yes.
And other people go through a system that is a sentence or a word.
I'm going to leave you alone for now.
Like Montessori. Cambridge. Since it tulisoma 844.
I won't even
and
mention.
844, fathers and mothers did what? What was it?
O levels, I don't know.
O levels, yeah. O and A levels.
I won't even mention the name.
No, it had a name. Yes, O levels, A levels, but there was what was it? 7 what?
7, 6, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I won't even mention the school I went to because now you people will start shouting.
Which one was it?
Never. Hey, God. So that you can diss me from now to New Year.
But you're
Never.
somewhere in the net, right? In the interwebs. So
Sorry?
we just need to
We'll find it. It has a website. Your school has a website.
Choose one. You either tell us or we find it.
No, thing is, if you can find your school in a website, you've made it.
You know, some of us we find our schools every 5 years.
Let me actually see where I went to school, whether it is anywhere.
Just go to the IEBC registrar. You'll find your school there.
Where IEBC?
Wait, Ivy, how are you?
Mine has no.
Please ignore these men. Ivy, how are you? You are fine this morning. She has even eaten breakfast. She's jumping. We're very happy. Have you seen Christine? She looks like a candy cane. You know what a candy cane is? Yeah, I can't hear that thing. It doesn't talk to me. It's just buzzing.
Yeah.
Nothing. So
candy cane in a candy shop.
Exactly. That's how Christine looks this morning. And then even Joylene is here. After she returned her chair, she has stopped being persona non grata. We have brought her back into the fold. And Frank is here for a second day in a row after leave. I'm telling you, life is good. And let me tell you some of the conversations that we'll be having this morning. I was about to say, shall we? But I'm very cognizant of the facts.
You just did.
Yeah. I just said it so that you know that I was thinking about it, but I was not necessarily going to say.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. Guys, it's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
What's today?
Oh my God. What happened yesterday?
It rained and washed away everything.
Are you sure?
Wednesday, the 29th of October, is the last day for Kepsea. So the students are already...
You're moving on swiftly.
Very fast. And other things still continue as we are moving. So today we'll be having a couple of conversations. Just in case you're wondering, this is a situation room. It's Dennis and Dennis trying to diss me this morning, but we're going to keep it moving all the same. Yeah, live streams are up
to jog your memory.
On YouTube, Facebook, and on X.
I keep interrupting.
We're also on ATN this morning. As we get into things this morning, I can see Okari has an agenda today, but
Tuesday was a good day.
Hey! So let me tell you what we're talking about today. He was once a cabinet minister for education. He was also a cabinet minister for interior. He was known as the Super CS at some point. He now went to abroad, overseas, as we say in Nigeria. And then he came back and said, you know what? I want to take a stab at this thing and I want to be president of the country. He's joined a political party. He's done many, many things. And he says, you know what? Maybe Kenyans will trust me. Will they? That's the question. We'll be talking with one Dr. Fred Matiang'i. He joins us at 7 o'clock this morning. And we're going to be going into a number of things. There have been many questions. And folks want to know, are you the one that perhaps could be given the opportunity to lead the country? We'll have a conversation with Dr. Fred Matiang'i from 7 o'clock this morning. morning, you also have an opportunity to ask him what you want to ask him. So you can already start sending those in, and we'll make sure we collate all of those and ask him the questions, because it's not just the conversation in the room, it's about what Kenyans want to hear. And then we'll, put him to the test and see if he comes out green or red. What will the trace be? Cindy, that's the conversation that we'll have. Also, today is the 29th of October. Tanzanians go to the polls, and the question will be, will one of the 16 Samia Suluhu challengers make it, or will it be Samia first time at the ballot, to then make a choice for the presidency? Remember that she took over from John Pombe Magufuli after he passed away. So she was not elected as a president, she was his vice president, and that's how she became president as a result of his death. She's gone to the polls, she's campaigned. The polls came to an end Friday. And so now Tanzanians go to the vote. Interestingly enough, it is the same day when Tanzanians have said, we're coming out, we're going to protest in the streets today, because
Tanzanians are going to do that.
That's what they've said.
Once.
That's what they've
we'll
said.
Wait and see.
Let's wait and see. Well, Professor Kagwanja will join us at 9 o'clock. We'll have a conversation around what's happening in Tanzania, the different questions that are coming out in terms of human rights violations, in terms of, proper leadership, and what it will mean that if she will have that conversation with us, and we'll let you know about that in just a bit. But we'll talk about that discussion in a bit. It seems apparently we're not going to do that with Professor Kagwanja today. We will talk European Union, but we'll share that in a bit, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Sorry, just got a bit confused there. All right, so those are the conversations that we'll have today. It's 25 minutes after 6 o'clock. You took us to Sao Tome Principe.
Yes.
All right.
Sao Tome Principe. And so we talked about a population of around 247,000, yeah? And it is a democratic republic, and the capital and largest city is Sao Tome, and gained its independence from Portugal on the 12th of July 1975. It is rich in cocoa. It exports that to parts of the world. So if you're a lover of chocolate, perhaps you've had a piece of Sao Tome and Principe. I love that name, Sao Tome and Principe. But the proverb today, the sun rises for everyone.
That's the proverb. The sun rises every morning.
For everyone.
Oh, for everyone.
Yeah. It doesn't choose. The mighty.
The sun rises
for everyone.
For everyone. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when you listen to the wealthy people, not rich, wealthy people, because there's a difference.
There's a difference.
They will always say, opportunities are everywhere. However, we all have 24 hours in a day. So, for example, Elon Musk does not have 25 hours. Who else is Dangote? Let me use an African example.
Yeah.
Dangote doesn't have 25 hours a day. He only has 24 hours a day. There are certain things in life where there's a balance. And that balance then, just like gravity, if Dangote jumps, he will come down. If Elon Musk jumps, he'll come down. If Amasai jumps, he'll come down. So for me, it just speaks of there's always a common denominator for everyone and an opportunity for everyone. And you have an opportunity to wake up at 3. You woke up at 2.
You just didn't go there.
I was coming there.
Welcome.
You have an opportunity to wake up at 2. You had an opportunity to wake up at 3. You had an opportunity to wake up at 5 or at 4. It's the same clock. It's the same time. It's giving everybody the same opportunities. However, it's how you exploit those opportunities that matters at the end of the day, because you can't give excuses and say somebody else has a head start or has an advantage because they were given an extra second or an extra hour. No. So when the sun is rising, you can choose to stay in bed when it's shining, or you can choose to take it as a signal, get out and do something. Yeah,
absolutely. It just reminds me of what one Dr. Patience Okoh says, my mum, and she would say, you know what, when those days, it wouldn't apply to go to school, right? That as they came, the missionaries came and went, then they decided that the only way to get people to understand that there's a place where you can go and learn a subject was when they would ring the bell. So they would ring the bell. So people who heard the bell would know, that it's time to go to school. But the ring of the bell was heard by everybody. It was up to you to hear the bell and go to school.
Mm-hmm.
So that bell did not ring in somebody's house. It rang everywhere. Everybody could hear it. If you decided to go to school because you heard the bell, that's up to you. So she normally says, look, when they rang the bell for school, did I tell you that you should not go? No. Everybody heard the bell. You would have gone. So just like when the sun shines, it doesn't say, okay, you sit in the corner over there, I'm going to shine for everybody. You can decide to do it as you please. It is up to you.
True. I mean, I would just look at it in terms of even the laws that are created for different jurisdictions, So if you come to Kenya, you have the supreme law that governs everybody. Everyone is supposed to follow that. You choose to get out of it, you get yourself in the other yard of the stick, right? If implementation of the same is subject for another day, but remember the supreme law is there for everybody. So you can't say this law favors someone else and discriminate someone else. So
indeed.
Yep.
All right. So people tuned in this morning. Let's say a quick hello to you as we get into things. A very, very good morning all around. And somebody's asking, can I connect? Yes, you can. Just go to our live streams. You can find them on YouTube, Facebook, and on X. And a very good morning to everybody. And those who listen and don't comment, we hear you and that we engage everybody in this discourse. A quick good morning to you. Pan-African Kenyan says, good morning from Nairobi. Good morning to you. Robert Tobogo is tuning from Mombasa. Juma says, no radio signal. Oh, really? Where are you? Maybe that will help us then to be able to see that. Hisa Daniel is tuned in from Uganda and says, good morning. Don Sabo is here and he says, Ndu, yes, ask Okari and Aseto. Are you ready to be asked the question? Huh?
Yes.
Okay. So, Aseto talk. Okay.
Imepotea tena?
No, uko hapo, iko sawa. Where are the two Kenyans who disappeared in Uganda?
Well, lawyer Nelson Harvey told us yesterday that they have credible information that they're being held in what's the name of that place?
Some place in Uganda
where they torture. No, it has Mbuya. Yeah, that's what they said. Where apparently people are taken and tortured, and that's what's up.
That's what he says. There's your answer. Don't Tabwa. Christina A says, good morning to you. Duke is tuned in and says, yes, it's midweek. Indeed it is. Jimmy Monovi, good morning, Spice family. Delighted to be here. I love this show. Jimmy, thank you for tuning in every morning as you do. Robinson Gatiba tuned in. Nakuru has been dead since Monday. Folks in Nakuru are crying. I don't know who we can talk to look into that. Perhaps we pick it up properly today. On another note, we must seriously look at transport safety in Kenya. It's urgent.
Please underline transport. If you know, you know. Please just.
Aseto has an issue.
Spoke my language today.
Aseto needs support.
Yeah. Transport situation in this country is just messed up.
It is.
Yeah. It is. Who is listening? Aseto is talking.
You said country or county?
Country.
In this
Country. Sorry.
Country. This side of the Sahara.
Peter Chiari.
Not all Limpopo.
Peter Chiari says good morning.
A104. Oh, with an expressway actually.
Thank you.
Wow. It stretches. The Mombasa Road is long, eh?
Yeah.
It starts from Huru Highway all the way to Tusks. Okay, sorry. Peter Chiari says good morning, and he's quoting Proverbs 13:3. He who guards his mouth preserves his life. He who opens wide his lips shall have destruction. Shh. Kennedy Ongwae says good morning. Tune in from Nairobi as the wind of change is blowing across the continent. Isakale says good morning, Spices. Here for an announcement by Ndu concerning a certain parking lot. Usijali Isa. We're working on it. Sawa. Just.
I think I missed a conversation here. What is this thing about parking lots?
So, Mutuflani and Isakale have decided that what we need to do is we need to do like a situation room after hours and, extend the conversations beyond this platform and, talk about stuff that people want to continue having. So they're saying we should actually develop that. Sawa, you guys. So
parking lot.
It's going to be called the parking lot. They've decided. Yeah. You know how people that chill in the parking lot and they extend? You get it? Yeah. Apondo Tuko. So are you all caught up? Very good. Simon Kibiru is tuning from Mombasa. Good morning. Ndu Aseto and Okari waiting eagerly for today's big conversation. Good day. Good morning, Zach. Okay, tuned in as well. Boaz is here this morning. Kuna committee that was to tell us how much is our public debt. Tunalipa kitu hatujui. Yeah, we're waiting for that committee to tell us. Don't hold your breath or anything. It'll eventually come. Peter Guge is tuned in this morning. I miss those days when Kibaki held a press conference only to tell us that his wife was Lucy Kibaki. I loved it. I only have one wife. Ruse. Masharia Jeru is tuned in this morning. Good morning, Ndu and Double Dennis. Good morning to you. John Otieno is already saying, good morning, team ready like Suluhu versus Samia. We'll look into that in just a bit. Dr. Venvik says, good morning, tuned in from Tudor. Erica War says, good morning, guys. Georgia Adimo is tuned in. You would love to hear Edwin Lesamira's voice on the Situation Room, but you hear it every morning. You hear it every morning. Sheila Masasabi says, Sema, tukopoa. Ogopa DJ says what? Oh, Jogu Monica says, good morning. Aseto, it was called Tattoo, the group you're talking about. Wale wa Ogopa DJs.
Yeah.
No idea what you're talking about. Okay. Lamek was saying you were tall, you were thinking about Elani. Okay, everybody has a different person as to who you were thinking, but Fiery Red says you're confusing Sema with Tattoo.
Okay. Conversation is ongoing.
It's going, exactly.
Who's these who called me tall?
Tall.
Lamek Otieno.
How do they know that your name is Tall?
Anyway.
Richard Odera says, good morning. It's all about cosmetic politics. More promises, no impact, no implementation of policies. King Dave Lubale, we see you. Daudi Lubale, you've changed your name. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a power and of love and of sound mind. Indeed. Arthur Wino says, good morning. D Squared and Ndu. My Princess Jumbo. Before paying contractors like Adani, why can't we start by clearing all pending bills to our local contractors? That's a good question. Pan-African Kenyan says, yes, we studied the Songhai Empire in school. Sasa nyinyi mulienda shule gani?
I know.
Both of you. These confirmation that they studied those things in school.
They went to Cambridge curriculum just like you.
Pan-African, did you go to Cambridge curriculum? I didn't go to Cambridge curriculum.
Tulienda shule iko na P.O. box.
My school had a P.O. box.
Oh, it had?
Okay.
Okay. I was trying to check on Google whether I can find our website. I only got a Google map.
Gets out. Owen Onkalo says, good morning. Actually, the school was called CPE. Christine Ocheng, thank you so much, my sister. Syra Singh is tuned in. Faith Masaba, she says she also remembers studying such. Aseto and Okari, which 844 did you guys go to?
Songhai.
Songhai Kingdom, Mali, Ukoju.
Hey.
Washoga Toto says, good morning. Okari, where? Quit when you can. Our parents did KAPE. Do you know what that is? Kape. Stanley Ngasha is tuning this morning. Bwangi Juma says, good morning. Lest we forget, somebody must go. Ooh. Newton Imase, good morning. Tuning from Nyakach. Patrick Ondeki is tuning as well. Tunechi, I've decided that is an Igbo name. I have refused for it to be anything else. Grace Omolo says, tuned in. No signal in Nakuru. Checking on that. Daniel Kaguongo is tuned in as well. Listening in from Papua New Guinea. Good morning to you. Love it that you're from the land down. Okoh, the land down under. Yusufu says we love our Nigerian brothers, but you've said something else in a language that I don't know if I might be insulting anyone, so I'll just keep it quiet. Paddington, UK is where Ambassador Beja is. George Kim Karimi is tuned in this morning. What happened to Kenya Railways? What happened? Derek Minai is tuned in. David Mangera is here as well. Anthony Karimi says the parking lot, great idea. Sindeo, we're going to do it. Roger Nyange tuned in from Voi. Mo Mose is also tuned in, waiting for mature conversations. Let's do it. Jack Shamir tuned in. Leonie Moto, the sun shines for everybody. Kabisa. Shem Ondara. Dennis and Ndu, good morning from Seattle in the US. Wishing my son Alan, who is sitting KCSE starting Monday, now Penda Sana Spice. Of course, everybody in our thoughts and prayers as they continue with those exams and start others next week. Karibuni Sana Nyote. Sindo, I got it right. Thank you for joining us and being in the room.
Nyota.
Nyota as in nyot everybody. Abi?
You know the nyota, so it's...
Nyota is star, twinkle, twinkle, little
I talk
star.
about the other nyota.
Yeah, 50,000. Oh no, apana, yo, atujui. Let's look into the headlines. The front page of Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard. Samia versus Suluhu. Is it Samia or is it a solution? Opposition members have been edged out of Tanzania's vote, turning it into a one-horse race. Just in case you were wondering, there are 16 other challengers toward the presidency. The democratic ideals Mwalimu Julius Nyerere once championed now seem buried under a tightening grip of autocratic control. As Tanzanians head to the polls today, the air across Arusha, Dar es Salaam and Moshi is thick with uneasy calm, a nation voting under the shadow of fear, silence and inevitability. Ooh. Yeah, well, people are saying that they didn't expect that SS Hassan was gonna... It sounds like a spaceship, actually, the SS Hassan. In this case, we're talking about Samia Suluhu. Other headlines: Pioneer Grade 9 test revive fears of KCPE scramble for top schools. Well, you should have seen it in term 2 of this year, because that's what it was. By the time term 2 was over and the selections had been done, you already saw that there was a scramble for the top schools. So we have to ask ourselves the question: decategorization of schools, is it really going to happen? Everybody now will be known as a particular school that you offer 1, 2, 3. But in terms of who people scramble for, it's still very real, that struggle. And that you have you have 3,000+ schools that nobody even looked at like this. No selection from anybody in the country for those schools. So you have to ask. Rescue my son from the Russian war. Nakuru mother pleads with the state. They're saying, please bring them home. Kenyans are also asking, bring Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo home as well. The forum, Respect Democracy and Human Rights Forum urges African leaders. We saw that this democratic forum took, it's called the Democratic Union of Africa, DUA, and they had their first meeting yesterday. So 2027 is the year that the Rironi Mau Summit dual carriageway will be ready. This is according to President William Ruto. Sawa?
Yeah. When again?
2027.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. President Suluhu runs solo race after brutally edging out critics. That is going to take a lot of attention today. Strong winds linked to aircraft accidents that killed 11 in Kwale. We saw, unfortunately, the death of a number of people yesterday. And it was just catastrophic to see that plane went down, carrying a number of tourists and some Kenyans. CJ Kome picks 3 judges to hear CDF case. Did you know that there was a CDF case still pending? They've not been able to sort that out. And they've decided that these Iranian fellas, 6 of them who are aboard this stateless, it's called what? Stateless vessel. Yes. That somehow were found in the company of 8.2 billion shillings worth of drugs. They've decided, we need to find out who you guys are, where you've come from, what you are doing. So we're going to hold you for 30 days.
It's going to break bad.
This one is going to be very interesting. Now, Nania Nakuja, number 2, America.
J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
Now, in America, Trump has unleashed the biggest warship, destroying boats carrying narcotics.
Yep.
And threats of, I don't know whether it's done that inside Venezuela. And then suddenly, hapa tukwetu
8.2 billion shows up. Yeah, everybody's
boti.
Meanwhile, there's a chick called Melissa. Melissa is in Jamaica, and she's telling these guys, nakuja na winds of I don't know how many per hour. And I'm thinking, karibu sana. So Jamaicans are in a bit of a tiff at the moment. So pray for Jamaica, because Melissa is taking no prisoners. What she's saying.
But have you guys seen what Trump has done to White House?
He painted it. It's no longer white.
No, he didn't.
No, he demolished the East Wing.
Oh yeah, I thought you were going to say he painted it like Trump can decide to paint it yellow.
And got rid of the Rose Garden as well.
The Rose Garden.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's where all the presidents used to go and meet for
but
tea.
It's now a beautiful concrete mess.
Nice.
Yeah, full of yellow umbrellas from Mar-a-Lago. Yeah.
He loves yellow because it's gold.
It's in life.
He should build a church there.
He could. He'd be following in fine form.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, churches.
He's got to do everything that he can do. He's got 3 years left in his administration. All the things that he thought, when I become president, I want to paint the White House yellow. You see, now he's doing. He has to do.
Daily Nation, eh? Samia eyes history as Tanzania votes. More than 37 million Tanzanians head to the polls today in a contest that President Samia Suluhu Hassan is widely expected to emerge victorious. While the election is historic, Tanzania could formally elect its first female president. It is also clouded by competing narratives, especially regarding the fairness of the campaign, detention of opposition leader Tundu Lissu, and the integrity of the electoral process. Now, in Opoda or Kango Kajaramogi, there is a problem. And this is the wreaths problem at Raila Odinga's grave. Hear this. More than a week after his burial on October 19th, visitors are still laying wreaths on Raila's grave, forming a tiny hill of beautiful flowers that cost thousands of shillings and forcing workers to clear them every 2 days. Munapeleka maua sana.
Lakini there's good
Inakuwa
news
shida.
in all of this.
It's a good problem.
Johnson Sakaja amerudi Nairobi.
Baada Okoh.
Amerudi jana.
Alisikia. Okay.
He's back.
Maybe it's a commercial break then he goes back.
Amechukua sabbatical. He'll be back. Now, freed Catholic nun now turns state witness in colleague's murder case. Catholic nun Caroline Kanjiro, who has been in police custody following the killing of her colleague Aselimina Karimi, will now be a state witness. And there is that accident that happened yesterday where 12 people died. Trip to Masai Mara luxury camp ends in tragedy for tourists and pilot. Now, everyday aircraft leave Diani Airport in Kwale County for Amboseli and Masai Mara National Park, ferrying tourists eager to experience the beach and bush in Kenya's luxury destinations. Here is an image of security personnel at the scene where a Mombasa Air Safari plane crashed early yesterday at Viongwani in Kwale County. All 10 passengers and their pilot died in the accident. Agencies are there trying to find out what could have caused that accident. But EACC have recovered 2.8 billion shillings land hived off Karura. Now, court declares the parcel that had been allocated to former cabinet minister J.J. Kamoth in 1994 as public property, and land officers who transferred that land, a case has been instituted against them. We also have that story of the Iranian boat, 8 billion shillings drag hole, and how that is proceeding. But the Iranians have rejected the US-linked interpreter to let our very own to interpret what it is we are saying. Problem is not in the interpretation. It is that this man is linked to the US, so we don't trust that he will interpret well.
He may tell you guys something else, and that's not what we said.
That is not what we said.
Leave alone that if we even bring our own interpreter, he too can also tell you what we didn't say.
Yeah.
But by virtue of the fact that he's from America.
Yeah, atutaki maneno.
No.
Now, student in court over fake exam papers. A student at Meru University of Science and Technology has been arraigned for selling fake Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examination papers. It is not the first time we're seeing this. Question is, when will it end? And parents have been told, you will pay for school unrest. The government of Kenya will not pay for renovate schools that have been destroyed by students. Parents will do that.
Okay.
Yeah, Okari.
Well, okay. So, let's look at the Star. The headline: ex-governors owe millions in mortgages and loans. One county chief with a tenure of just 5 years borrowed 50 million Kenya shillings. I'll get into details of this story. It's a very interesting one. Still, experts probe Kwale plane crash as Kenya mourns. Bad weather, the wreckage of the Mombasa Air Safari plane that crashed in Diani South Coast yesterday. Top Mombasa Air Safari plane 5 YCCA. And they're probing what could have happened because the airline operates a fleet of similar aircrafts connecting Kenya's coast and national parks, and they're saying that early indicators suggested bad weather could have been a key factor, though a full investigation is underway, and the probe will be conducted under the International Civil Aviation Organization Convention on Aircraft Accident Investigations. It's the worst, actually, in terms of commercial flights. Tragically, all 11 occupants on board the aircraft were found to have suffered fatal injuries, and the victims included 8 Hungarian nationals, 2 Germans, and a Kenyan pilot. Still, there's a story: Iranians in 8.2 billion drug haul detained for 30 more days, and if convicted for the crime, the 6 foreigners face a possible life sentence. There's a story here on Kalwale defies party, campaigns for rival candidate in Malava. Senator declines pressure to support unpopular Ndakwa. So, there's another story here. South Sudan conflict has driven 25,000 new refugees into Kenya. So the UN Commission on Human Rights in South Sudan has said the escalating conflict and renewed fighting are forcing hundreds of thousands to flee once again. And the Commission says the renewed violence has forced at least 300,000 people out of the country, with 25,000 ending up in Kenya, deepening an already dire regional refugee crisis. Already, Kenya is hosting 854,000 registered refugees and asylum seekers from more than 20 countries as of June this year, straining local resources. Of this, more than 308,000 refugees and asylum seekers are in Kakuma, and 62% of them are from South Sudan.
I can tell you for sure that there's an influx. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Because if you look at some of your residences in Nairobi, you have a heightened number of brothers and sisters from this area.
Yeah.
And they're moving fast into Kenya. But they're not going to the refugee camps.
Nope.
That means that they do have some source for sustenance. So they're being funded somehow, whether it's by family members in different parts. But there is an influx. If we look... What did you say? South Sudan? Yeah, specifically. There is a huge...
Of the total number in Kakuma, 62% are from South Sudan.
Right. But
and
you also,
getting more numbers because 300,000 have already been forced out of the country. So you have 25,000 that have now come into Kenya. So the others are scattered. But this is documented. These are the ones who are
documented. All right, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, to another story. EACC reclaims grabbed Karura forest land. So the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has won a major legal battle to recover public land that had been illegally excised from Nairobi's Karura forest and the Kenya Technical Teachers College. Then there's a story here. Study showing
somebody can just go and hive off Karura forest.
Yeah. So this so in this case, it's a very, very old case. And this was former Minister J.J. Kamodo.
The education, yes?
Sorry?
Minister. He was education
Yes,
minister.
yes. So he took it when he was minister.
Okay.
And this was under former late President Daniel Moi. And so it's taken years and years and years. So finally, the case was settled, and in a judgment delivered by the Environment and Land Court in Nairobi, the court ruled that the parcels of land, including Nairobi's block, whatever, were unlawfully allocated to private individuals and companies, and therefore, irudishwe.
Well, that's a good thing, he thinks.
Yeah. A study showing 80% of low-income earners report a drop in revenue. Nearly 8 in 10 Kenyans living in urban areas say their income has either stagnated or declined this year, underscoring the strain many households are facing amid rising living costs and slow wage growth. Then, tough economic times hurt land prices in towns. Mashamba zinunuliwi, so the prices are steady. Just the average price per acre, it has experienced the slowest growth since 2020.
Are you surprised?
I'm not surprised. People don't have money to buy land. So, but as that is happening, I'll quickly just run through this story. Let's talk about debt. So you are struggling to this to few thousands, ex-governors, ex-governors, owe millions in car loans and mortgages. So a parliamentary investigation has uncovered what appears to be widespread abuse of car loan and mortgage schemes involving current and former governors and senior county officials. So the Senate County Public Investments and Special Funds Committee found many county executives, particularly former governors, have defaulted on their loan repayments. Now, you want to know how bad this is, Osotsi, who is the committee chairperson, said some sitting governors have taken loans they were unlikely to clear before their terms expire. We had a case where a governor borrowed 50 million, How can one possibly repay 50 million in 5 years? In Parliament, we also have access loans, but all must be cleared within our term. So governors are earning 957,000 Kenya shillings, including allowances every month. Now, over the past 2 days, the committee identified at least 4 former governors and a deputy who still owe millions in unpaid loans years after leaving office. In Meru County, all 3 former governors, Peter Munya, Kiraitu Murungi, and Kawira Mwangaza, are among the officers who owe a combined 58 million.
Come on.
To the Meru County Executive Staff Housing Fund. They owe. Yes, you want to ask a question? It's going to get worse.
The Staff Housing Fund.
There's the County Executive Staff Housing Fund.
Nia nini?
Nyamkopo.
You can borrow, okay, everybody, even you, the governor, okay, sawa.
No, governor, deputy, and county executives can go to that kitty, borrow money.
And
so,
Roger.
County executives.
Yes, county
they are
executive
among.
staff. It's county executive staff.
All right.
So, Governor Mutuma told senators Kiraitu took 40 million in December 2022, repayable over 20 years. Munya and
Was he still
Mwangaza,
president? Was he still governor in 2022? He was not.
But it's payable within 20 years.
Now,
No, but he was taking as who?
As governor.
He was not governor in December 2022.
No. Governor, so Kiraitu took 40 million loan in December 2022.
How?
Repayable over 20 years.
My question is...
I know your question.
Okay. So you understand where I'm going?
Yes.
Okay, sawa.
Still was able to take the loan. Mwangaza borrowed 25 million and 13 million respectively, also with their 20-year repayment terms. Now, what senators are questioning, why the county allowed loans with repayment periods that extend far beyond office holders' terms.
Exactly. Or even when you're not in office, you can still take the loan.
Yes, you can still
How?
take loan, yes. So the issue we are facing dates back to Peter Munya's tenure. This is the example. Now, this is what I didn't know. He said the county relied on the Salaries and Remuneration Commission guidelines that allowed, listen to this, this is crazy, that allowed governors, deputies, and executive members to set their own repayment timelines.
Oh, okay.
Now you see where the problem
We are
is?
here getting annoyed. Kumbe.
They're following the guidelines. So the guidelines, you can decide how long do you want to repay?
I want to pay in
50 years.
30-41.
Yeah, sour.
No problem. How much do you want to pay per month? I have like 150 per month. Oh, no problem. No problem.
How is this a guideline? For heaven's sake, you borrow a loan and you can borrow any amount you want. Now, in this case, you're hearing 50M in car loans and mortgages, 50 million. And then you're saying, if 50 million, they lipa in 20 years. You know you have only 5-year term. So once your term is ending, that's it.
The person
So
who is
people have
agreeing
been
is also
defaulting.
culpable.
Yeah.
The person who is agreeing to these loans is culpable. The one who is approving and signing on the dotted line and allowing those funds to be released also is culpable here. It's supposed to be a termly loan. This far out exceeds the term.
Yeah.
And you also allow them to say, I don't think I'll have this amount per month, but I can pay this. Then you say, no problem. No, just go ahead. Come on.
I mean, even when you talk about setting the term limit, I mean, don't you just sit down and say it's not making sense?
These people left. You know, the worst thing is, people, we all know the corruption in counties. So besides ile pesa ingine, hii ni loan ulichukua. Now, in West Pokot, the committee discovered former governor John Lonyangapuo and his deputy owe the county more than 45 million in unpaid car loans and mortgages. His deputy owes 23 million, according to a county demand letter dated May 15, 2024, which warned of legal action if the arrears were not cleared within 30 days. 30 days ilikuja na ikapita. That was May. We are in which month?
We are in October.
Yeah. We are actually to Minusa November. And still nothing has happened.
So 30 days. So we're talking about 6 months later. Nothing has happened.
Nothing has happened.
Where? Okay. In the hospitals, hospitals recording high mother-infant deaths phase closure. Now, health institutions and practitioners registering high maternal mortality rates will no longer have their licenses renewed. That's according to Cabinet Secretary Eden Duale. The announcement comes as Kenya grapples with alarming mother and child mortality statistics. Kenya was ranked among the top 5 African countries where women die from childbirth complications, with 594 deaths per 100,000 live births. Now, the 2024 report on preventing child and maternal deaths by the United States Agencies for the International Development put the country in 4th. Now, from 2020, the last year, some 7,764 women in Kenya died while giving birth, according to UNICEF. The lifetime risk of maternal deaths in 1 year stands at 52%. During the launch of the Kenya Quality Care Health Facility Assessment Report and the Reproductive Maternal, Newborn, Child and Adolescent Health and Nutrition Investment Case in Nairobi, Duale gave shocking findings. When expectant mothers are dying on your watch, your medical licenses are of no importance to us. Only 4 out of 10 hospitals in the country have the capacity to handle deliveries effectively. How many? 4 out of 10 hospitals in the country.
What are you talking about? Sorry.
I don't know how many hospitals we have, but it says only 4 out of 10 hospitals. Now, according to the ministry, many workers in public and private health institutions manage patients via mobile phones instead of being physically present. So you're managing a patient kwa simu. How are you doing this morning? Unasikia aje, instead of being there physically. Now, Duale said his ministry would soon launch nationwide survey targeting hospitals in an effort to save expectant women from gross medical negligence. Some doctors have been using the Practice 360 app from their bedrooms to discharge patients. That will no longer be the case. They must be within 500 meters of the hospital for the app's OTP to work.
That's a good thing. True. Be there. Be present. We have too many losses.
My question is, this has been happening for a while now. Why wait now? What happened to checks and balances and making sure that all these things work?
I guess it got to the point where it's so much that they have to finally do something about it now. And I think,
sometimes it's tiring to hear we will do. Just do it, and then come late and tell us. You remember the Shah saga? The boardroom and the boxes and volumes of evidence of people who are suspected to be committing crimes. What happened? As of 2 weeks ago, only how many people? 6 people have been charged in court.
After all that shouting and making
noise. So this thing of closing hospitals, cut a license, do it, and then tell us, we've done this.
And then tell us later.
As a result, this is what we've done. We've saved these many lives.
Indeed. Those are some of the stories making headlines. Of course, we're looking through them as we go along. We'll take a break now. It's 7 o'clock after 7. Dr. Fred Matiang'i in the hot seat. Good morning.
It is now 7 a.m. with ICEA Lion. Protect your today, securing your tomorrow.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. President William Ruto has urged citizens holding illegal guns and ammunition to surrender them as part of efforts to curb cattle rustling in the North Rift region. He was speaking in Baringo County on Tuesday, where he launched and inspected a series of major infrastructure and development projects. President Ruto, who was accompanied by Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen, among other leaders, pledged to restore peace in the region.
Tunataka wananchi waishi kwa amani. Tunataka wakulima waendelee na biashara yao na wafugaji. Tunataka watoto wetu wasome, tujenge uchumi, tuendeshe Kenya. Mambo ya vita, mambo ya kupiganisha wananchi, mambo ya insecurity, hiyo maneno nimesema tutakomesha. Tunajua imekuwa hapa kwa miaka karibu 30, but imefika siku ya mwisho, na siku ya mwisho ndio sasa. Tunaelewana watu wa Baringo? Si hawa watu kila mtu arudishe bunduki kama maneno bado haijaharibika?
Murkomen revealed that out of the 602 illegal firearms recovered by security agencies in the Kerio Valley, 120 were from Baringo County. He reaffirmed the government's commitment to ending banditry.
We will not consult anybody for us to remove guns from civilians. This operation will be targeted, itakuwa intelligence led, na hatutafanya ile ya zamani yenye mtu sijui wa mama wanapigwa, wazee wanapigwa, jamii inapigwa. Hapana, serikali ya Kenya sasa iko na uwezo, ile rais aliwa resources ya kuidentify nani ako na bunduki, nani ana finance mambo ya banditry, nani anauza risasi, nani ananunua ng'ombe ya ile ya uwizi. We have to pick those people one by one, Your Excellency.
Activists have continued to rally for answers over the disappearance of Bob Njeri and Nicholas Okoh in Uganda 30 days ago. Members of the revolutionary Gen Z movement, led by Brian Okeja, gathered along Aga Khan Walk in Nairobi on Tuesday, claiming the government has remained silent over the matter. The activists, who wanted to meet Foreign Affairs CS Musalia Mudavadi, claimed to have received unconfirmed reports that the missing activists may have been tortured.
We are having some concerning and pressing informations that one is that the Okoh and Bob Njeri and Nicholas Okoh have been tortured and they are unconscious. We also got some rumors, they are unverified, that could be that one of them is already dead. So we have come to the office of the Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, to answer why first the government is quiet and also if we can get proof of life.
More than 1 month after the abduction of Bob Njeri, more than 1 month after the abduction of Nicholas Okoh, the government is yet to do anything. The minister is not in office. He has turned the Ministry of Foreign Affairs into a Ministry of Holiday Affairs.
University of Nairobi students have given the government until end of business today to address the demands of striking lecturers who face a nationwide student strike from tomorrow. The lecturers are demanding 7.9 billion shillings based on a previous agreement, a claim the government has repeatedly denied. The strike has paralyzed learning in all public universities across the country for more than 40 days now. Some students have been forced to seek odd jobs to navigate the unexpected financial difficulties they face as they wait to resume their studies.
You have to pay our lecturers so that you are back in class. Failure to which on Thursday, comrades, on Thursday, we have a mega demonstration.
And we want to tell the government that if you will not listen to the plights of comrades, if you will not listen to the cries of comrades, the town down will be bigger than once.
I want to say that the students are in a state of apalangewa. They cannot even learn, they cannot do anything. We demand to be in class. Too much of peace is dangerous. So we are telling those who don't want to pay our lecturers, we will be on the streets.
Israel has carried out airstrikes in Gaza in response to what Israeli officials said were violations of the U.S. brokered ceasefire agreement. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz accused Hamas of attacking Israeli soldiers in Gaza on Tuesday and breaching the terms on returning the bodies of deceased hostages. The Palestinian armed group claimed it had no connection to the attack and insisted it was committed to the ceasefire deal. At least 33 Palestinians were killed in the series of Israeli strikes, according to Gaza's Hamas-run Civil Defense Agency and hospital officials. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust.
For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, staki kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, staki kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
He is himself actually has admitted that he bribed members of parliament, you know, so...
he admitted that he bribed members of parliament?
Well, when he said...
The government.
Yeah, when he said that he gave the 10 million was for what?
We're always quick to point faults in somebody else before you look at your own faults as a person.
If it was Kanu's day, hii amuka naye leo, ungekuwa umeenda bali sana hii. So and we must celebrate you.
There are 600 million people now globally estimated to be living with diabetes in the world. So it is a major health problem. It's the largest single disease rising pandemic that we're dealing with right now.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 12 minutes after 7 o'clock. It is the 29th of October, and this is Kenya's biggest conversation coming into the Situation Room this morning, getting into the second hour of the Situation Room conversation this morning. We're going to go into a while of looking at things from a Dr. Fred Matiang'i point of view, and in terms of the shaping of politics in the nation and what it does look like when we're hurtling quickly towards 2027. Dr. Fred Matiang'i is in the hot seat this morning. Good morning, Dr. Matiang'i.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
You're fine?
Mm-hmm.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Like I said, you're in the hot seat of the Situation Room this morning. There are many a question, many a clarification which are being sought. And of course, let's talk about some of these things as we get into it. But Dennis wants to take you somewhere else in Africa for a moment, and he would love to hear.
So today we are in Sao Tome and Principe, so a country whose population is around 247,000 according to the 2025 stats, and its economy relies on agriculture, tourism and foreign aid. Cocoa is the main export product. The islands was once among the world's leading cocoa producers. So if you're a lover of chocolate or cocoa, perhaps you've had a piece of Sao Tome and Principe. But the proverb that you're getting from this country today, the sun rises for everyone. The sun rises for everyone. How would you interpret that?
Well, everyone has an opportunity, and God favors everyone. There's no one who's discriminated against by God. Everyone has an opportunity. So I don't know why human being was created by another human being. We're all created by God, and you'd like to assume that in natural circumstances, everyone has an opportunity at life. Regardless of the quality of life you will lead or what will happen to you, everyone has an opportunity at life. If you are alive, God has something for you. And then later on in this program, I'm going to talk about my experience at the Ministry of Education, and that was essentially the philosophy behind cleaning up the education sector, so that you give every child an opportunity, equal opportunity, to be the best that the Lord will enable them to be. And then, by the way, Dennis, I hope you don't mind me saying this. Today, the two tests or assessments for grade 6 and grade 9 are going on. KCSE, some practicals may have started. Since I have this opportunity, I want to seize it immediately to wish all candidates the best in their examinations, that the Lord may enable them achieve the best they can achieve and the best they're able to achieve. Chances are that if this was 7 years ago when I was in Joko House, I probably would be in Timbila, in Taita Taveta, or some place in Galbatula, or in Mutara, somewhere else in the north of Meru, looking at how those tests are going on and so on. But I wish all our children the best. And as I used to say then, and I would like to say this throughout my life, our children are a gift from God. What we must do as a society is show them love and do the best we can, whether they are biologically your children or your guardian or your neighbor's children or children in the environment in which you live. All children, regardless of their direct relationship to you, are gifted to all of us adults. So during this season, say a kind word to a child. You see children at a bus stop trying to get into a bus to go to school, walking by the roadside. Help them. Say a kind thing to a child. That warmth, that positivity is how we were brought up, and that's what Africa is known for. And let's extend it to our children. Where you can, where culture and other issues allow, hug a child. I used to say, show children love, because that's how we'll end up bringing up warm, loving adults who are willing to live and know that God loves them. Don't be harsh to kids.
Yes. Yeah. And one would say that is how the sun rises for everybody.
For everyone. It's interesting that you say that, and I guess that could be a point for us to pivot from, Dr. Matiang'i, because we saw you sit in two different positions in the cabinet, in education, and then also at internal security. And during education, during your stint as a CS for education, we saw that a number of things were streamlined. We saw that in that time, the issues of cheating and issues of dealing with exam malpractice, truth be told, reduced significantly. Now, if you take a hard hand to some things like that, now today we see you gunning for the top seat in the land. Do you feel the same way about how you apply a hard hand in education needs to be applied to leadership for the rest of the country?
Well, thank you. I don't know what a hard hand means, but I would rather say a firm and honest hand to the thing. I mean, the whole issue really is doing the right thing. I've said this over and over again. Leadership is about solving problems. Because why do we elect leaders in the first place if we can do all these things for ourselves? We elect leaders so that they can represent us, they can speak for us, they can act in trust on our behalf on a number of issues. It is leaders who should provide a fair and objective environment for us as a country to thrive, for our people to thrive. The drive at the Ministry of Education when I was in Jogo was exactly that, we want to create an environment that gives everyone a fair opportunity, a fair shot at what they are doing, and so that people get their genuine grades that they deserve, that reflect genuine ability. Educationists will tell you that exams, as we normally know them, are a form of test and measurement. Why do we test? We test to determine whether the right skills have been acquired. Why do we measure? We measure to determine whether you can move to another level and what you can actually do. That's what this is all about. Many people don't know actually that in one of the years, I think 2015, in one of our state universities, the entire class in the Faculty of Engineering failed first year. Because that's how people were coming to terms with the reality of examination cheating. Yep. The entire class in the Faculty of Engineering failed. The professors refused to accept to move those kids to second year. Now, that was a result of those buffed up grades. People turn up, with an A, and they are selected to the Faculty of Engineering and they cannot survive beyond year one. If you ask people honestly, I know people, I know families, I can name people myself, whose families, whose kids I've seen from school X or school Y, who were celebrated, and we were all told even in church to pray for them and thank the Lord that they have scored an A-. And then they were selected to the Faculty of Pharmacy or then they could not survive. And we had gotten to that level of decay and how we collapsed the system. So the drive was to do the right thing. So if that is a hard hand, I would like to apply the same in public life. My dear friends, discipline is destiny. We cannot move forward and do anything in an environment where there is no discipline, where everything goes, where people don't do what they're supposed to do, and so on and so forth. I believe in discipline, in fairness, everybody doing what they're supposed to do. And if we lived that way, we'll be happy, we'll be fine, dandy. Society will move forward. That was my experience in Jogo, and that is what I would like or look forward to be the experience in government if I was so blessed and so lucky to be given the opportunity by the people of Kenya.
Daktari, many have said you managed to handle the irregularities, exam cheatings in education, but critics say that in you handling the exam, you are authoritarian, that you instilled fear rather than reform. What would be your response to that?
There's always another side of argument every time you do something. I've heard this several times, by the way. People say, what is authoritarianism or what is dictatorship when you look at it? It's when you force your will or your way in an environment where there's a structured and a systemic framework of doing things. There is nothing that happened, in that department or any department where I worked that was outside the established regulations and system. And this is something we all have to come to terms with, honestly. the things are not just going to happen on their own. You know, I hear the arguments people have every day. Oh, we were on the same level with Singapore and Malaysia. Oh, South Korea has done I don't know what. Honestly speaking, it's laughable. So how did they move out of that place? People made sacrifices and they stuck to discipline and did the right thing. That's why their countries are moved forward. These countries we admire around the world because they are developed, they have done very well. Things just don't happen. People have to work for them. Everywhere I went, and I'll give you about 2 examples at the Ministry of Interior. When I arrived at the Ministry of Interior with my colleagues in the security sector, we had a problem of the proliferation of small arms in the country. And you ask senior security people at the Ministry of Interior, for example, at that particular time, do you know how many people have been licensed to carry guns, private people? We have no record. There is an act, you don't need a new law. There is an act that exists that prescribes how you are supposed to be licensed to carry a firearm, which prescribes that you should actually even go for psychiatric test. There is an act that prescribes, and there are regulations that prescribe on how you can sell guns. People who are licensed to sell guns in Kenya, private people, not government people. We had, I don't know, that 3 people, briefcase, gun sell dealers, and so on and so forth. In an environment like that, how will you control security in your country? So there's no new law that I wrote or anything else. I simply said, here is the act. Every one of you who's holding a firearm, your license is considered cancelled. We do it afresh. And go to the act and do what the act demands you do. Go and bring a psychiatrist test. 5 people, including people who are already in leadership positions, failed a psychiatric test, which means they ought not to actually be having the guns. One of them even murdered someone. So you see, when you say you are autocratic or authoritarian, how you dictated, what is that really? The law was there. We did not write a new law. We're just simply saying, this is the law. Let's go down the prescription of the law. The law says you should produce these documents from KRA. You should produce a certificate of good conduct. You should go and take a psychiatrist test. You should go and do this. Once you have done this, then we can give you a firearm license. And now, because the system before was horribly corrupt, and so many people are carrying guns around, putting them on top of bar tables when they are drinking. They argue over something. And I hear the regime has gone completely back to where it was. Because people are always used to cutting corners, and doing things that are not right. Same thing with the Betting, Licensing and Control Board. We went through the betting. What are the regulations that we have in place that prescribe on who should be licensed to conduct betting in the country? The law is there. It's very clear. It's a question of saying, let's go to the law. What does the law say? And let's walk down the law. So where is a place for authoritarianism? Where is a place for dictatorship? It's basically insisting, we're the ones who have written the law. What does the law say? And even when I raised questions about, academic qualifications and people's academic papers, I used to say, I believe that you can be a very good leader without a PhD. You don't have to have a PhD to be a fantastic, good leader. You go to parliament and write the law that says, for you to qualify for this particular position, these are the qualifications. Then let us follow it. But if you believe we don't need it, then
the law.
Remove it.
Yeah. Okay.
Get the stumbling block, Dr. Matiang'i. I remember I was in your office one time. I had covered a story from Mount Elgon, and I could see the frustration that you had at the time, especially with this question of illicit firearms, was a situation where the people at the forefront were actually politicians. Because we talk about systems, and in this country we always talk about a system that allows certain things to happen, but it's actually human beings who are part of this, what we call the system. And I recall at the time, because of these stumbling blocks, you want to enforce change, you want to then abide by the law, you want to follow procedures, you want to follow the constitution, but then you hit a snag because there are powers and people that are involved in these who will then eventually frustrate any efforts to try and see, let's do the right thing, right?
That is true. Politics comes in the way in most of those cases. We are here, Dennis, we are here in many respects of our country precisely because of that. We are here because there are people who want to circumvent the law or people who want to live differently other than, what the law prescribes and what the law provides. That's why every time I'm asking the question, what would you do to fight corruption? How would you fight corruption? I tell people, we don't need any new law. We don't need any new institution. They are all in place. The laws are all in place. What we need to do, what we need is good leadership. And nothing is stronger and does better than leading by example. You cannot tell people to stop doing what you do every day. If you are a thief yourself, you cannot tell people to stop stealing, yet you are the chief thief. The question is, that is how you lead people. You lead people by example, and then you follow the law. The reason why that is a problem, in the case, for example, of firearm licensing, is when people are, of those 5 people who failed psychiatric tests, some of them are in politics. And this is a case where we all agree that the National Security Council, even President Kenyatta himself said he would subject himself to that, and any member of his family who had a firearm would subject themselves to that, and that is what happened. But you see, there's some who would like to circumvent that. You remember, I was taken to court several times by people who are resisting that. Yet, you can go and amend the law, but as long as the law says this is what you need to do, that is it. Imagine all these societies that we keep admiring, whether they are, in Europe or wherever. Sometimes life boils down to one thing. Let's all follow the law. No one should be favored. Let's all follow the law. If we follow the law that we have in place, we will all be very happy and peaceful. Why should you get away with crime and while others are punished for it? That is a problem. So we had, those challenges are there, especially in the security sector, even in the education sector and all sectors of our country. Sometimes our problem is the very low level of political accountability in our country. The political practice in our country is characterized by a very low level of accountability. People say things and do things and get away with them. They don't come back to be held to account to say, why did you say what you say, provide facts about this thing, and so on and so forth. That is part of the problem. And as you're saying, Dennis, it's true. We had serious challenges, especially in mopping up and cleaning up this small arms business because of the politicians. But I think, considering the context and the environment in which we are operating, the amount of guns we collected was fairly significant, and we were able to bring down the rate of what you may call small arm-driven crimes very, very significantly. If you look at the data, it shows clearly that for 2 or 3 years we were consistently, going down in terms of numbers. There was a time I was actually shocked that for about a week or so we would go through in Nairobi, for example, the reports of crime are less than 20 or less than 30. And that was as a result of that particular drive. So I wish it was sustained, because that is the only way you can deal with some of these aspects of small crime.
Okay.
There are spin-offs to that, which I don't have time to go into that. If you have a reckless and governed regime of firearm licensing in a country, it also encourages criminal elements within the security sector to misuse their firearms. But that's for another day.
Okay. So there are many things, of course, that need to be looked into. But I guess that then allows us to segue then from this question, is that based on some of the things that you've already alluded to, you want to be president of Kenya?
I would like to be.
Why?
Not I want, I would like to be.
You would like to be president of Kenya?
Yes.
Why?
Well, you see, because I want to fix these challenges that we have. Because when everywhere I go in this country, and I talk to people, for example, in the public service, almost every day, each one of us interacts with public servants of one kind or the other. I meet police officers, for instance, almost every day, and the horror stories that people tell you are very frustrating for a country our size. And I want to allude to only 3 things, which I hope you will give me time to discuss at some level of detail. It is actually very shameful what's happening in our country, especially how we are operating in this region. And this is a problem with our foreign policy. I'm even ashamed to discuss this, that, citizens of my country, Bob Njeri and Nicholas Oyo, are arrested by a government in our neighborhood, and then we sleep and wake up with a government where government officials, including the Minister of Foreign Affairs, are not able to actually say succinctly where is Bob Njeri and where is Nicholas Oyo, and make excuses and so on. And there are many issues related to that. I am concerned about our image. I'm concerned about how we are faring. I'm concerned about, the status of respect that we had in this region and how our image is being battered, all of which are as a result of bad management of our foreign policy and bad management of the country. This needs to be fixed. For a long time since independence, either because of the non-aligned movement activities or because of our belief in multilateralism, we have maintained very solid relations with our neighbors because our trading life begins with our neighbors and we work well with our neighbors. What we are seeing going on in the country where we are hobnobbing with terror groups that have been considered and labeled criminal organizations in other countries is not fair. This needs to be fixed. If you talk to any civil servant in the country, if you met them today, they will tell you about how the morale in the civil service is at its lowest ebb because of intense politicization of the public service, meritocracy and so on has been thrown out through the window. The level of confusion where public servants are overtaxed, they are not given an opportunity to make the decisions they need to make and so on. We are destroying our country. These things need to be fixed. The worst of our challenges, of course, is in the social sectors, like in education. I don't know anyone you will meet who will tell you what is going on in the education sector. I mean, the level of confusion is unbelievable. I don't want to go into the granular details.
But if I could ask a question that perhaps would go into the granular details, and I know there are three that you mentioned, and this is the first one. You speak about the disappearances of Bob Njeri and Nicholas Oyo in Uganda. But we also have to point to the fact that whether it's speculation from me who asks a question or the issues that Kenyans will bring up of people who disappeared while you were the CS for Interior, and people who turned up dead and for whom questions about their whereabouts were never answered. Would this be the same thing?
No, you see, the contexts are totally different, and I will even answer that one very directly and tell you this. In every security situation anywhere on earth, even in the United States of America, in the UK and so on, security incident will happen. Somebody will be murdered by either a police officer or by a criminal, or something will go wrong somewhere. Where the line is drawn is where investigations are done. And as I said, every time when I was in the Ministry of Interior, we got the directions investigations point us. And if the direction that the investigations point us is to Dennis Okari, regardless of his status in society, we go there. And we ensure that he faces the law. In cases where we have had murders or criminal activities that have not been resolved in our country to this day, in some files are still open. In others, I have personally called out very openly for a public inquiry.
Did you push under your watch for those things to happen?
I did. I pushed for investigations. I counted the other day, by the way, because I was going through records another day on this issue of extrajudicial killings and disappearances. I counted, I checked my diary, my old diary, and discovered that I appeared before the Security Committee in Parliament 3 times. I think 3 or 4 times on this matter of forced disappearances and so on. In some cases, it had to do with the returnees from Al-Shabaab training in Coast and parts of Northeastern in Kenya. And in some others, in fact, I remember it's only one incident where a member of parliament provided actual information and reports on people who had disappeared, and they had disappeared because they had gone to a police station, and we launched the investigation at that time, working also with other agencies that we work with in the region. Where there is doubt and where there is information that is not available on how people have disappeared or people's lives have been lost, it is the responsibility of government to conclude the investigations, to pursue as detailed investigations as possible, and I would say it again, go the direction the investigations will point us to. If the direction of those investigations say it is the Minister for Interior, for heaven's sake, let's go there and face the law.
Is it possible? I'm sorry, I'm going to stick on this point because it's a sticky one and it's a sensitive one.
Go ahead.
How do we expect, if it's possible, that the chief suspects in disappearances, whether they be forced, whether they're returnees from conflict, whether they're returnees from terrorist activities, whatever the case may be, if the chief suspects are security agencies, whether it is the police, whether it's a special branch of anti-terrorism, whomever it is, do we really expect that they will be prosecuted and or investigated by they themselves? Does that happen?
It does. And let me explain this very slowly. Crimes such as getting involved in people's disappearances and murders are not covered or helped by the statute of limitation. In other words, it doesn't matter how long it takes. You will still be investigated. There's no one who sits in public office eternally. If you are seated on those files there because today you are the Minister for Interior and you cannot be investigated, you will not be a Minister for Interior eternally. You will leave at some point. And when you leave, people will have an opportunity to investigate you and find out what exactly happened. But in our case in Kenya, there is no one who is above the law. I was a minister for 10 years. I was not above the law once. In fact, the stories I tell these days, some of the very enlivening experiences I remember when I was in government are conversations with, for example, Professor Mungai, our Attorney General, or retired Justice Kiara Kariuki, who also became our Attorney General since 2018. And they would tell me, as a minister, and they would tell so many of my colleagues in cabinet, you don't have powers to do what you're doing. The law does not allow you to do that. Professor Mungai would tell you, I'm sorry, your sentiments may be right, but that is all. It's just your sentiment. You have nothing else back what you are going to do. So, and you cannot act on the basis of your sentiment. Goodbye, okay. Look for the law. So the point I'm making is this. There's no one really above the law. What we need to do in our country, and I asked police officers when I was the minister to do the same, and I asked them to this day and the other people, if you have reason to believe, because you see, let me ask you a question. If you are a minister and you beat up your wife and she reports you at the police station, why can't police investigate that matter? And indeed, if you have engaged in violence against your wife, you should be prosecuted. Your status should not allow you to get away with it. So no one is above the law. That's why I'm saying all these matters where we have inconclusive investigations and so on, let them be investigated. And I keep saying the same thing. The case of Bob Njeri and Nicholas Oyo, you see, what hurts is when the government and those who are responsible become either impervious or they don't care about what we think. Nobody issues a statement about it. Nobody bothers. Nobody even says it does a diplomatic note and so on. It worries everyone because at least let us know we are investigating, the disappearance of Bob Njeri, or we are investigating the whereabouts of Nicholas Oyo. Let us know that we have asked questions of the government in Tanzania how you would whip or torture our citizens when they came there. But investigations, asking questions, government is there to act in trust of the people. Even these cases that we are making reference to here, Dennis, let investigations happen. And I will still say, let investigations happen and let us go the direction investigations will point at.
The issue with investigations, because this thing is so systemic, by the time we're getting to Bob Njeri and Nicholas Oyo in Uganda, back here at home, we've had issues over the years. And because you're talking about investigations being carried and no one is above the law and regardless of status, it's a question of influence. And what we've witnessed in this country over the past few years is a situation where, and I'll give a couple of examples, where people have been abducted, people have disappeared, people have been taken from their homes. And you will hear stories that they've been abducted from their homes with vehicles that are foreign plates. Other people are saying these are masked people. And then we expect the same government to come tell us, okay, where did our people go to? And all you'll be told right from the top, and this is from the head of state, saying, we don't know who took those people. The police, Inspector General of Police, is asked the same question. Where are people going to? Who is taking these people? And the police, even in court, will say, I don't know. The DCI boss, equally, will say, I don't know. That's the investigative unit. Then behind the scenes, you have people who, again, are arrested. Some have died while in police cells. The case of Albert Ojwang. And you trace all this, and when you trace it, you realize that where a call was coming from is from somebody you'd call quote-unquote influential, who's a Deputy Inspector General of Police. And when investigations are carried forward by institutions like IPOA, the investigations take weeks or even take months because these are nobodies. These are not people who have any big standing in society. And so the cases will grow cold and people will forget. And these people will still stay in office and nobody can do anything about it. So we have IPOA, we have the ODPP, which time and time again has handled files and cases of people who are suspected to be behind this. And at the moment as we speak, it is the state, and it's very clear, it is the state that has been involved in the abductions locally and the kidnappings and the disappearances of people. So, and Bob Njagi, was it last year, disappeared, the Kitengela 3, and it was local. By the time he's disappearing in Uganda, we've already set a precedent locally. So it's a systemic failure, and people are getting away with it.
Dennis, I always like leveling with people and being very honest about this. I am not deluded that we have the best of all worlds, that everything is effective. We will investigate these things in 2 or 3 months and get to the bottom of the matter, especially when it comes to security matters such as the ones we are talking about. But I want to assure you about one thing. Slowly as we go forward, I was the Minister for Interior when Pepe Pendo happened in Kisumu. Mm-hmm. And I remember that night, a very senior journalist in Kenya calling me, and the conversation did not end because he broke down, and cried about the brutality and the cruelty that happened. I don't want to go into that matter because it's already in court, and there were senior people who were involved in that matter. People also thought and behaved that way at that particular time, thinking that a solution was going to be found. People are before a court of law on that kind of matter. Because of, as I said, very poor and very low level of political accountability in our countries, which I agree with you. Some of these challenges will be there and will persist. But we also need to be persistent in terms of seeking to do the right thing and seeking the right for all of us. Because that way then, we will finally improve and clean up our society. We can't walk away. We cannot give up. There's no room for giving up. Yesterday, I was, thoroughly entertained watching the speech of the new president in Botswana. They've just jailed their former Minister of Finance, on corruption and saying the forensic work that is going on and the people is going to involve and so on. I was telling myself, at some point, that guy may have thought that the law would not catch up with him at some point. I am aware of another African country that is about to jail another Minister of Finance, in fraudulent cases and so on, that I am aware of. We make small steps, 1, 2 steps today, 3 steps tomorrow, but we'll get there. We cannot give up, because that's why we are raising these questions. That's why we are asking everyone who is involved to do their part. My dear friends, let me tell you, if people gave up in the struggle for the independence of this country, we probably would not be independent today. But, people started with those incremental stages. They fought, one battle at a time. A few of them were killed here and there by the colonial government, but they stayed the course. If you look at the journey of this country's democracy, Masinde Muliro is not here today, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga is not here today, all those wonderful people are not here today. Some of those who are here, like former Chief Justice Dr. Willie Mutunga, have got scars to tell. Raila Odinga was gone to sleep recently. He's now not here, but they paid the ultimate price and stayed the course. This thing doesn't come easy. And I think for all of us as citizens of Kenya, the responsibility we have is to always hope for and work for a better tomorrow. It is not going to be easy. I am not deluded that it's going to be a walk in the park. But let us stay the course.
You've talked about Botswana and a minister jailed. Yeah. If you are president, you elected president, because Kenyans expect accountability, and that's why Gen Z is on the streets. Integrity, accountability. We have a lot of corruption cases involving top politicians, people who are in cabinets. Will you jail corrupt officials?
That is going back to the same accusations you're having of autocracy and so on. I will not be the judge and the magistrate. I will be the president. But I will not interfere. The law will follow its course. Because all that needs to be done in a country, you do not need new laws in Kenya. You do not need new institutions. We have all of them in place. What we need to do is reduce political interference and politicization of the justice system, and let the law take its course, and let those independent officers and independent institutions investigate. Sometimes I get very frustrated, and I guess I'm not the only one, but people look at these things all the time. We wrote a constitution that is very liberal, and we created officers that we call independent officers. Independent officers because the people can act without necessarily acceding to political pressure. The Inspector General of Police, the Data Commissioner, and so on and so forth. All these are supposed to be independent officers, ODPP, and so on and so forth. If they acted independently and they remained obstinate and say they're going to do the right thing and move forward, they will probably get us somewhere. And the challenge is not just to the executive branch of government, it's also to those others who are in this, what we are calling independent officers. The president in Botswana has not written a new law. He hasn't even gone to Parliament to ask Parliament to enact a new law. He has basically said, the institutions that are here, do your job. And the investigators have gone on and done their job. All I promise Kenyans is, if I get the opportunity, I'll do the same thing I was doing at the Ministry of Interior. Let's go to the law. What does the law say? And stick with the law. Because if we stick with the law, you have all your answers. I don't have to write a new law or tell you this is what you need to do. What does the law say? Do you qualify or you don't qualify? The law says you don't qualify. Thank you, goodbye.
Dr. You say that if you're given an opportunity to be President of the Republic of Kenya, you'll do the same as you did as the Cabinet Secretary for Interior. But that will also be remembered as a point where you said doing the right thing, but at that time, court orders were disrespected. Especially in a case of one Miguna where he was deported from the country despite numerous court orders that were disrespected and were not followed. So if you speak of following, doing what you did at the ministry, are you not looking at repeating the same mistakes that you're talking about correcting?
My brother Dean, let me tell you, we are here as a country, and I want to persuade you, we are here as a country precisely because of what you yourself are demonstrating right now. People always operate on half-truths, rumors, gossip, and so on. A three-judge bench at the Court of Appeal 1 month ago ruled that I did not disobey any court order on this matter. Got me out. Which court order are you talking about? Sometimes I would like even you guys in media to be sometimes serious about the things you say. Say, order number this on this particular matter was defied, and therefore this is the decision of which court order was defied. Because I hear this question all the time. People talk about the latest matter is a matter that was at the Court of Appeal that was ruled on by 3 judges a month ago, involving me, Boynet, and Kialangwa on a particular order. What order was defied? Because you see, because it's fashionable, and this is the way in which we've done politics in our country. We come up when we either don't like people or like people, whatever the case is. We bandy around, things, accusations that you cannot prove and so on, because either you want to project a particular image or you want to do achieve some end which I don't know. The truth of the matter is this: I have never lived all my life. I have never lived above the law. And by the way, I have been ordered several times by the court to abandon decisions I made even as minister, where people have gone and bleeded on the basis of rights, on the basis of regulations, and the court has ruled the minister is wrong. The reforms I wanted to carry out on the firearm licensing took forever because we were in court and the court was ruling against us every so often. Digital migration, we went all the way to the Supreme Court because the High Court ruled against us, the Court of Appeal ruled against us, and we still persisted and went to the Supreme Court. So I couldn't do that if I didn't believe in the process of the law. And armed with a very solid, and Gith Mungai is the ultimate, solid, brilliant lawyer, very respected professor of law in the country. And Gith insisted we go step by step. I stayed the course all the way to the Supreme Court before we effected migration. So those things do not exist. What happens in most cases is that, people find it easier to say, bandy things around. I was accused of, I don't go to Parliament, and so on. By the way, Parliament, if you look at our constitutional architecture as it is right now, I don't know whether Kenyans take time to analyze these things and read them very well. the most powerful of the three institutions of government in our country is Parliament. Because Parliament, as a minister, Parliament is the one that will sack you without recourse. Even the president will not save you if Parliament decides to sack you. And it's not thinkable that you would defy Parliament. The question is, you would be called to Parliament, and when you are, for example, in the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government, you have 21 things calling upon you, and all the time, when you are not able to go, you mediate with the committee. Can I come on Tuesday instead of Monday? I am supposed to go to Addis Ababa for a meeting with the government of Ethiopia on this day. Can you indulge me to come on Friday when I'm back from Addis? And then people say, no, he refused to come to Parliament. You cannot refuse to go to Parliament because, as I said, Parliament is a very powerful institution. According to our constitution today, they will sack you without recourse. Even if the president loves you, he will not save you if Parliament sacked you. So we, as I said, we are here because we've conducted our public affairs with this level of sometimes laziness, recklessness, where people tell us things which don't make sense and we believe them and clap for them and get away with them. Or where people come and tell you, Dennis defied court orders, and you can't even say which orders.
So the Okari question is, at the time the court gave several orders that Dr. Miguna be given his passport at the time. And on these numerous occasions, Miguna was never given his passport. So what was the reason behind him not giving his passport?
By the way, a lot of people who point that out, again, Dennis, is because they don't take them to read and understand issues the way they are. And I want to restrain myself from being very descriptive in a negative manner on this particular issue. There is a ruling by Justice Lenaola when he was in the High Court. Go to the records and read it. There is a ruling by Justice Lenaola prescribing how you would regain your citizenship when you had renounced it. Because in the old constitution, we did not have a provision where you would be a citizen of two countries. And many countries insisted that for you to be given citizenship of another country, you had to renounce your own citizenship in another country, in your country. So then this matter was so contested, it went to court. There is a High Court ruling directing the Ministry of Interior and the Immigration Department, literally providing a prescription on how that would be done. So the question is this: you act this way, you violate that ruling. You act that way, you violate, you have problems with the ruling. We ourselves came up with a very simple form at the Department of Immigration to enable Kenyans who had renounced their citizenship because of those challenges of the 80s and so on, to gain citizenship very easily. The form will take you probably a minute and a half to fill. By the time that drama was unfolding here at the airport, about 200,000 Kenyans had already gained their citizenship through that simple little form, that is some miserable little form that people would just sign and go along with it. Now, this brother travels on a Canadian passport all the way to Nairobi. And when he gets there, he says he wants to enter using an ID card. Of course, it's astounding. Of course, you know yourself that cannot happen. Then the government goes all the way, including moving your house to the airport, so that we could give him the passport. The director of immigration himself and everybody else. And he refuses to sign that little funny, miserable form. And then the government does everything, including sending former Prime Minister Raila Odinga to the airport to persuade him, and then talking to the Canadian High Commission in Nairobi because he had a Canadian passport, asking the Canadian High Commissioner to extend consular services to him. So in case he feared that he would be arrested, since he arrived here on a Canadian passport, he could not be arrested because of that. So we told the Canadian High Commission, extend consular services to him, we'll give him a passport as long as he clears with a Canadian passport from the airport. Within 24 hours, he will have his passport. He refuses to do those kinds of things. We are spending time as a country on an individual. Clearly, isn't it obvious the challenges we are dealing with as it is? Why on earth would you refuse to give someone a passport when already 200 and something thousand Kenyans had already regained their citizenship? So it is an over-dramatization or, an over-enactment of something very simple and petty, to be honest with you. And we have lived on that. And I want to urge you and urge the rest of us in the Kenyan media and Kenyan citizens that as a country that has got serious challenges that wants to move ahead, this kind of pettiness and small trivialization of things is what is holding us back in development. We're spending our time on nothing. Actually, what we're dealing with is almost nothing. And you can tell clearly from even the way you yourself are asking the question that you haven't seen the history of this. Read Justice Lenala's ruling in the High Court when this matter began and all that. All of us were bound. In fact, at one time, I want to challenge you. At one time, when that drama was unfolding, I spoke to then Senator James Orengo. I mean, whom, as you know, is one of our top-notch lawyers. Mm-hmm. And Senator Orengo was asking me, now, Fred, how do we resolve it? I told him, my brother, I mean, you are a last resort guy to go to in terms of law. I mean, no one can wipe dust on your shoes in terms of law. Can you advise me? Just tell me some excuse under the law I would use to get that man out there. Nobody wants that drama.
Under the law.
Under the law. Orengo couldn't. He said, he has to sign that little paper, whatever they will give him.
Okay.
Because we were willing to, everybody was willing. As I said, we moved in your house there. The director of immigration, can you imagine how much more commitment does one have to show you than moving the immigration department to the airport to help you?
You, as answering the question in terms of why you would like to be president, we have been on the number one for a while. There's a number 2 and 3, you said. What's the number 2 that would guide your thought process into action?
I mean, provide the country better management, honestly. I mean, just a country of our size and the resources and endowment, if we were to be very honest, and this is not hatred or whatever. I mean, people always accuse me and say, I don't hammer the government enough. I don't insult the government enough and so on. I keep saying, insults are not a solution to any problem. And I don't know of any leader anywhere on earth who has been respected because of the prolific insults they used against others. The challenge is the way in which we are managing ourselves as a country. With all these challenges that you see, and how we are spending our resources. We closed schools the other day, and we are sending capitation to schools at the 11th hour.
The day is done. There's no 11th hour in this case. The day was done.
Yeah, the day was done.
The money was sent.
Yeah. When that is happening. And you can see these are problems of management. I find it very interesting that, we live in a country where, for me, having served as a minister, the most rudiment thing that a minister can do is look the cameras and tell you what they are doing in their ministry and why they are doing it. Now, all this drama flowing in the streets about she, and so on, no one tells you anything coherent about what they are doing. The university funding model can only be explained by one person, the president. And the frustration out there is amazing. I was in Kisumu the other day meeting with student leaders and a lot of young people. When a university student in a country that has been independent for over 60 years tells you they do not know whether they will do the exams, they do not know whether they will graduate next year. Next week, the university lecturer strike will end the 4th week or probably the 5th week. And we are going around as if nothing is going wrong. Are we sure, actually, that the teaching is going on in our state universities? All these issues are related to bad management of our country. We are selling the KCC, KICC, Kenya Pipeline. I don't know whether our children or our children's children are going to find anything in this country. We will have sold everything, we would have sold ourselves out without proper explanation and without proper guidance on what needs to be done. This is a problem of bad management of the country. When I talk to dairy farmers, and then I've been engaging some key actors in that sector, even the sales for KCC by 2013, when Uhuru Kenyatta became president, was about 3 billion. By 2020, 2021, the sales had gone to 21 billion. Why are we actually selling KCC? And when you look at these things, people are not foolish. You can see clearly that the interest is probably stripping public assets and transferring public assets to private hands in a very convoluted process. And then we are selling assets in this wanton manner of messing up the country. tea farmers, if you know, the tea farmers across the country are the ones who come from my part of the country are really frustrated because of the bonus. Dairy farmers have not been paid by KCC for 3 months. All these are issues of management, the way we are managing the country. I honestly think I would like to provide better management for this country, coalesce resources, reduce the wastage that we have in the public service, and provide the country better, predictable, trustworthy management. Government that Kenyans can trust, because when you wake up in the morning and tell people things, you tell them things that are going to happen. And there's nothing wrong with you failing to do certain things. You can level with the public and tell them, sorry, this is what I wanted to do, it did not work, and this is the reason why it did not work. Are you fine as a Kenyan to read the kind of stories we are reading about drugs arriving in Mombasa and drugs moving around the country? Are you happy with the rates of suicide that we are seeing in the country amongst young people, the rate of hopelessness and so on? Are you happy with the cyber security law that we have just enacted? Is that the way we should manage ourselves in this day and age? All these are problems of management. And thirdly, of course, provide opportunity, real opportunity for Kenya to go where it ought to go. Because we are a country that is capable of doing 10 times better than we are doing right now. If we had stayed on the trajectory we were in 2022, we probably would be doing very well. I want, and I've seen clips doing rounds from my speeches in 2022, I want that the level of money laundering going on in the country, the wash activities going on in the country, we will end up with a criminal enterprise colonizing part of government. We have been grey listed by the Americans. The EU has declared us an insecure financial transactions environment, and I don't think that is news to anybody. Observers can see clearly the kind of things we're engaged in. We are accused of all manner of things. It astounds me that, newspapers would wake up in the morning and put up a story about, we are selling firearms to rebel groups in our neighboring countries. And to this day, the government has said nothing. Because you see, we citizens cannot say anything. We don't know. It's the government that should come up and say, are we selling firearms to rebels in neighboring countries and so on. And of course, the issues I alluded to earlier about the education sector and the frustrations that the country is facing, the issues I raised earlier about our foreign policy and the way we are handling ourselves in the region. Surely, these things require to be fixed so that we give Kenyans a better opportunity to go where the country needs to go.
So, Dr. Fred, we know where the country needs to go. We know the problems that we are facing as a country. Let's talk about some practical interventions here. And in this case, I'm assuming you are president. At the moment, the biggest issue, and you said you've talked to public people in the public service and the frustrations people are going through. The economy is a very big subject. And when we speak about economy, the country is in debt, unmanageable debt. We continue getting ourselves into this dark hole of debt. There's a report today in the local dailies where 80% of low-income earners are reporting drops in revenues. So you have 8 in 10 Kenyans living, and this is just in urban settings, where they say their income has either stagnated or declined. Pay slips are being raided every time and time again. We have people who are in the other sectors, SMEs. People can't start a business. There's an interview here, and if you can remind me, just to sell mineral water. Somebody opening a small kiosk to sell mineral water. The number of licenses they need and permits.
To the amount of 317,000 shillings.
Over. And you've not started selling anything. You've not set up equipment. That is just licensing and permits. What is draining the pockets of very many households? High cost of living in electricity. We're talking about transport costs, the pay slips, and all these heavy taxes that at this point, it's even difficult to pinpoint what's going to happen next month, what other taxes are going to be proposed. These are conversations that still go on in Parliament. What are you going to do as President of the Republic in Kenya practically to bring down the cost of living, and how are you going to deal with the debt question?
Thank you. We are dealing with suffering the consequences of poor governance, the consequences of mismanagement and corruption, wastage in public resources. So let's begin this step by step. We'll start with the question of debt and how we use resources that we borrow. And on this particular one, by the way, I want to be very frank and level again, as I said, with the people of Kenya. It is not always fair to assume and blame others on things that are straightforward. Kenya's history with debt management has been horrible. I mean, even when we were in government within the 10 years. I remember I chaired the cabinet committee on coordination of projects and so on. One problem we discovered at that time is that there didn't exist, we were building one at that time, an accurate, reliable, effective debt register for the country to know who's borrowing what and so on. The chaos of procuring debt and the chaos of procuring international development assistance in the country was a bureaucratic problem, which first of all needs to be addressed and need to be sorted out, so that there are ministries in this country where people have committed resources and they're supposed to be putting counterpart funds that they don't have. But as soon as you have signed this agreement, the interests accrue and you're expected to make payment and so on. So, number one, clean government is a solution to this. What I mean by clean government is transparent. I don't know whether you have read the Auditor General's report on the e-citizen portal and what's going on. It's a horror story, how we are managing public resources. Because what essentially the Auditor General is saying in that report is that we are looting public resources through that e-citizen and moving them and banking them in places where they ought not to be banked. How then will you manage debt? How will you pay your debts if that is what is happening? So number one is managing government in a clean, transparent manner that's mindful of those challenges and addresses them fully. I promise. On this particular one, I can promise. I will not manage government this way. It will be government in the sun with brutal frankness and sincerity on some of the things we are doing, and we'll avoid this monkeying that we are seeing going on around.
So you're saying there's no compromise. Sorry, if you could just remember that number 2. But you're saying there's no compromise on not following the law or not doing the right thing. That in an event where something is going on where the right thing is not being done, then there is no apology for, maybe this was the situation, or maybe there's no apology. You do the right thing, or you do the right thing.
I will not make excuses. But because you see, if I cannot respond to you, I cannot be accountable to you, I cannot answer your questions on things that I'm responsible for, I ought not to be there. Honestly, I mean, whether you call that autocracy or dictatorship, what have you, I don't care. But the truth of the matter is that if I sit in a responsible position, I have to be responsible and answer the questions you ask me from that position. I used to tell people, when we were in government, we had challenges at some point. We were divided in government because of politics and so on. Politicians or members of parliament would come to me from, for example, Rift Valley at that time because we had problems. And I tell them, I don't care the political differences people have out there, but I am your Minister for Interior and I'm paid to be here. So I'm paid to serve you. So I serve you first and then anything else follows. If I don't want to serve you, I just get the hell out of here, go sit down under a tree in Kisi.
Okay.
That is it. So the question is, there is no excuse, there is no compromise when it comes to doing the right thing.
Okay,
number two, deal with the bureaucracy in government. We had started a project in government. It's supported by the World Bank, because the World Bank used to have the ease of doing business index. How you fare in terms of dealing bureaucracy and how bureaucracy affects business. I actually thought, when I saw some of my former colleagues like Adan Mohammed and so on have been appointed to this government, I thought that this administration was going to follow through on that, so that you scan through government all through and see the cost of bureaucracy on doing business and rent seeking and all these inefficiencies and how they affect government. Now, that chaotic licensing regime you are describing, where you go through 4, 5, 6 licenses, you are spending about 300,000 and so on. The obvious reason why that is being done is because people are looking for rent-seeking opportunities. You cannot grow business in an inefficient environment like that. So it's a question of sitting down. We were having very fervent discussion with the Council of Governors at that time to deal with licensing as itself a barrier to successful investment in the country. Because you see, if you're moving goods from Nairobi to Kisumu, you pay levies in Nakuru, pay levies in Kericho, pay levies in Homa Bay. I mean, it's silly. It doesn't make sense. So And the Council of Governors has done a fantastic job, actually, themselves trying to harmonize this. Maybe they need better cooperation from the national government in doing this. And if you cleaned up that bureaucracy, reduced the rent-seeking opportunities, you will engender and help businesses to thrive. Thirdly, you cannot grow business where corruption reigns supreme. I have talked to investors. I've met people. I met 2 American companies. People want to invest in Kenya and they're serious people. They arrive here and they're asked shares in their businesses by government bureaucrats. They're asked, and so on. And you will not deal with these issues if people are acting on this on your behalf. This again is a matter on which I say dictatorship or no dictatorship. I don't care. If you are a cabinet minister and you get engaged in those kinds of things, you are sacked. You go. Because then how will the country move forward if people arrive here, they want to invest in things and they're being asked for shares in their companies? You talk to private sector investors in this country. Some of them will tell you the horrors they go through. You have noticed that private sector organizations in this country, Kenya Private Sector Alliance and the others, have become so timid. People are not making statements. They are quiet. Because they're going to government meetings, they are lectured, they are told off, they are what have you. Yet you cannot develop an economy of any country, especially ours, without there being very clear and effective collaboration between private sector and public sector.
Okay.
And those conversations must exist. When we were in government, the president chaired the private sector round table. And it was a round table indeed. We listened to private sector. We may not do everything the private sector wants done at that particular time, but we listen to each other. And I can tell you today, without fear of contradiction, if we didn't work with the private sector, we would never have succeeded to fight corona the way we did. Because a lot of heavy lifting was done by the private sector. So there must exist an effective relationship of trustworthy and engagement between the private sector and the public sector. If it is not there, private sector people are being asked for shares. Private sector manufacturers and traders, some of them are being discriminated against. If you raise up your hand or you ask a question, KRA is at your door and to terrorize you and so on, how will businesses grow? So these things have got to be addressed. Then the animal in the room that we are all to confront is wastage in government. Honestly speaking, for a country our size and the economy that we have, it is shocking the level of wastage in government. And by the way, on this particular one, I want to be very frank and say this. I don't want to be dishonest and blame this administration and say, it's just that the scale they have taken it is new. The tradition of government, in most cases, has been more political and less technocratic. So that you see, that is why, all manner of political stillborns are appointed to critical places. A guy goes there, runs a thing, can't win, comes here, is given a serious technical responsibility and so on. If you appoint 3 people in a ministry in job group U, the PS is there, how are those people going to deliver? Because a friend of mine from the development group was asking me a question. I received 2 letters from advisors in the ministry and another one from the PS. And they are telling me different things. So who do I deal with in that ministry? This bureaucratic untidiness, which is related to wastage of public resources, is why we have all those problems of debt and so on. Finally, politicization of public service will kill us. We can say these things and talk about it until the cows come home. We are not saying this because we hate anybody. The truth is very clear out there. Politicization of the public service will finally kill this country. Kenya has thrived and done very well over the years because of an institutionalized public service. Talk to Mudaura. Talk to Kimemia, who are heads of public service before. And all these people are built and work through a public service system that delivers, because public servants, once they're given the requisite support they need, the system works and they will deliver services. The moment you start parachuting people because of where they come from one position to another and so on, that level of disorganization and politicization of the public service causes you this. 1, public servants withdraw. Because they don't know what they are not going to do, they will not exercise their energy or creativity or ability to resolve any problems. 2, others start looking for rent-seeking opportunities because you see, they don't know how long they are going to be there. 3, the incompetence that you have brought from your village and you have brought in because of their political affiliation will not deliver anything for you. So you keep seeing horrors every time here and there. Finally, the country pays the ultimate price in the long run. So the pay slip and the Kenyan workers are paying the brunt of it. The only source of revenue is taxing the payslip. The payslip has become the greatest enemy of the administration. And if your public servants who are taxed left, right, and center, they are demoralized. services are not being provided to them. Some of them in their cadres, like the police service, the insurance cover is a joke in the process. So how do you expect these people to have the requisite morale to deliver and move the country to the next level? So politicization of the public service is our greatest enemy. And I honestly believe that's why I don't believe in insulting people. And when I don't insult people, it doesn't mean that I don't know what needs to be done. Insults are not a solution, and insults are not a strategy to how we are going forward. How we are going forward is confronting these challenges we have and solving the problems that we have in the country. Talk to each other as people who love our country and say, this kind of nonsense has got to come to an end. We can manage this country better than we are managing it.
So, Dr. there is still on matters economy. There has been conversations around odious debt, and that is a big problem for the country that economists have said it is a problem that needs to be handled ASAP. That coupled together with the problem of pending bills that has choked businesses in the country. As a president, how would you address these two issues?
By the way, for our debt situation right now, there are various instruments that you can use to deal with our debt situation. But to be frank with you, in my honest view, many of them are going to be steeped in our level of trust and confidence people will have in our economy and in our management. If we don't have the requisite trust for people to invest in your country, then your discussions on whether or not you are going to restructure debt are going to become very problematic. We can restructure some of our debt. We can renegotiate some of our debt. We can rework some of the programs and activities that we have. But a lot will depend on, Dennis, when we are grey-listed, as an insecure financial transactions environment, how are you going to sit down with groups of financiers and convince them that we are an environment that we can actually sell some debt to you and we are going to come through on this? Because people are reading these things we are reading here. This movement of drugs and so on, the whole world is seeing them. How are you going to succeed? You see, I keep saying this all the time. My friends, forget about the elections and so on. There's a time we must always have a conversation as Kenyans, because this is our only home on earth. And then we have to resolve the challenges that we have in our country today. And then insulting each other is not going to get us where we are going. How will you manage to convince people when they will look at the wastage that you are involved in across the board? You are contracting projects at 3 times the cost. And then every time the things come out, no one can understand. I want to use 3 examples to demonstrate what I'm saying. This administration has engaged in what you may very easily describe as digitalizing corruption. For every digital activity in government that was going on, that was going to lead us to more efficiencies and saving resources, they abandoned it in favor of new tenders and new opportunities for themselves to make money. Name is the National Education Information Management System, worked on with the World Bank, that was supposed to give us accurate data on our schools. The project was way ahead. When we worked on it, there was nothing wrong with the project. Then the government abandons it and comes up with something called chemis or whatever it is. In doing that, the level of wastage and all those resources that have been spent already on NEMIs are gone down the drain. They're lovable and almost it's almost idiotic, honestly. The same PS, the same principal secretary who was in the ministry when we were working on NEMIs is the same one who's abandoning it and going to chemis. Are you driven really by reform, or you are driven by rent seeking? So you abandon that and go to a new arrangement. All those resources gone. When we worked on Huduma number, we actually decided to go about it in a budget-sensitive manner, working with the National Intelligence Service. I don't think Kenyans know, and I don't think I'm revealing anything here, that when Dilaru was here, Dilaru had built capability and resources here with the government printer that were going to waste. After scouting that with the security sector, we reduced the budget of working on Huduma number, acquired some of the resources of Dilaru, with the National Intelligence Service, build our own capability to generate and even print cards. By the time we were leaving government, we had synchronized data and printed 13 million. All the government needed to do is to continue that exercise. They abandoned that to go and attend a new project all over. Passport issuance program, we had worked on beautiful arrangement. We were going on. We had gotten to a point where we had reduced issuance of passports to 1 day. And the system was working. Abandon it. Go to procure another system. All this wastage of resources is intended to provide rent-seeking opportunities. Issue a new tender so that you can make money, have new people to provide services. Because if your intention really is to correct something that has gone wrong, how is it that we are all Kenyans and we are here, we have not gone anywhere? What is wrong with calling us and telling us you are the Minister for Interior? Kibicho, you are the Minister for PS Interior. What happened with this Uduma number? How can we improve it? We have noticed this and these gaps. How can we improve them? Because if you are patriotic, you're interested in solving the problems, you want to resolve the challenges of your country. Why can't you call the other Kenyans who are in that office and have a conversation with them and tell them we have these gaps? How can we improve this system without spending any more money on a new system?
So then what
all these procurements are being done because of rent seeking. So there is no way we are going to manage our debt situation, manage our expenditures, if we are not cognizant of the fact that there is too much wastage, too much corruption, too much pilferation, and the result of this is that we are just basically, accumulating debt after debt.
So how do you stop it? And this is the question, because how do you get into the system and then be the one that changes the color of the water, as opposed to then not allowing it to seep in? And I say this because look around the world. Look from the Philippines to Indonesia to on this side, Brazil. You mentioned some countries in Africa. Look at the other day, Nicolas Sarkozy goes to prison for 5 years. What is common in all of these individuals who have been sentenced to jail terms, prison terms? They've defrauded their governments when they had an opportunity to administer some level of authority or some kind of governmental discipline. They will serve time in prison. You would never imagine, but it's going to happen. In some cases, it's already happening. So what's to say that Fred Matiang'i becomes president of the country and this water doesn't get into you, but that you are the one who colors the water?
First of all, before we go to consequences for action, let's focus on resolving the problem. I don't think I need more than 12 months to clean up the data universe in the education sector, because that's one of our problems. So that what we were working on when I was in Jogo was we want to know every child, where they are, so that when we are doing transfers to schools, we are transferring resources to children who exist. I saw the other day a senior government officer saying they have discovered there are 50,000 ghost students or whatever it is, and then they transferred money to everybody, including those 50,000 ghost students. Why would you do that? Just ask yourself the question. Kenya is the digital capital of Africa. How on earth can we say that we cannot account for all the kids we have wherever they are in the school? Do we need more than one full academic year to ensure that we have all the data of all the students we have in school and where they are?
And if I may ask on that particular point, because we somehow are befuddled about that particular issue as well, that this system, this chemist, it sits somewhere, but it's administered essentially by the Ministry of Education, right? That the Ministry of Education will know the schools registered. They will know the students registered because they are accorded a number. Everybody has a number which is in the system. Is it possible that money goes to schools, money goes under capitation to students without the knowledge of anybody in the ministry? Because this is one of the things that needs fixing.
You know, honestly, for every bit of these jokes that you see, there is rent-seeking behind it. Because I don't understand how, when we started fixing examination cheating, we insisted every candidate must have a UPI, unique personal identifier.
Yes.
And in fact, that is how we managed to deliver examination results in record time, because every child has got a UPI. When we go to print papers, I had gotten to a point where we insisted that we print an examination paper for a specific student. So that if we are going to the printer and it's a security printer somewhere outside the country, we are printing an examination paper for Dennis Okari, because already Dennis Okari has registered and they have a UPI which is called an index number. Now, I'm not able to understand, the excuses that are being given. That's why I normally say they can't make sense even to a fool. Because I'm not able to understand how I can have a system that I manage myself. Then I say there are 50,000 ghost people in it. Well, then what are you actually doing? Or what are you telling people you are doing? And you can see through these jokes. I'm calling them jokes because they don't make sense to anybody. Kenya, of all countries, you walk to any country, even in the Gulf states, in Doha, in Dubai, in any particular ICT department, the Kenyans are the majority in that group. With all the training we have done and so on, the capacities we have in the country, how can we be debating on such basic things and so on? So again, it goes back to that philosophy of doing the right thing. Within 12 months, you can clean up and mop up and make sure that every child in school, wherever they are, from early childhood level to university, have got a UPI. And you have a system that manages this data. When you are transferring resources, you are transferring to existed students. And there's a system of removing those who, either pass away, and you can track the student. The intention of NEMIS was that every child has got only one number that they use from the beginning of the education to the PhD level if they wanted to go for PhD, so that we can actually know the resources that we are spending on each of these students as we go along. Now, when it was shunted aside and a new system introduced, and that's why you're hearing all these jokes and all these excuses you're hearing. The whole intention behind it, to be honest with you, in my view, I do not want to speculate and impute improper motive. It's just that I'm not able to understand what that is. How can you run a system and then say there are ghost students in it and so on? When we went to register the police, when we started the digitalization of the police records, and then we discovered ghost police officers, it's because when I was asking Boynet at that time, how many police officers do you have? Can you tell from your office which police officers have served for 10 years in one station? He couldn't. Because we had, and I can reveal this today, because we had a problem in Nyamweya House with the challenges of the passports and so on, and discovered there are police officers who had served around Nyamweya House there for 16 years. They had almost lived there. So they could manage the system and so on and so forth. So we worked on that arrangement. That time Gabo was the Deputy Inspector General Police in charge of Administration Police. Reorganized the place, digitize the police records and so on, so that you know every police officer where they are, so that I can walk into the office in the morning, or I can ask the Inspector General, because police don't report to me, they report to the IG, and query the data. Tell me how many women police officers are deployed in Nairobi. He can give you the data. Tell me how many women police officers are deployed in Nakuru. He can give you the information and so on. That is how modern government operates. Unless and until we achieve that level of efficiency in the manner in which you're managing public resources, we will continue to suffer the wastage that we are suffering right now.
And you will be compromised? I say this because, and that was part of the original question that I asked, how do we know that Fred Matiang'i will not go and drink the water, but in this case will go in and color the water? People have stood on Afia House steps and said, I'm going to go into this place, I'm going to change it. People have told Kenyans over and over again, give me 100 days. By the time 100 days are over, the thing is going to be squeaky clean. We're going to shine this thing, you can see reflection in the... we've heard it all. What's different, and how do we know? Because we've been told Parliament is a lawmaking body, but then somehow people walk through the doors of Parliament, drink the Kool-Aid, and then they're drunk on rent-seeking. People say I will be the right person and I can handle this thing, and then they go quiet. As a church mouse, we don't hear from them for 5 years. What's going to be different? Because Kenya is in problems.
Because no one can compromise me. Simple as that. No one can compromise me. But 10 years I was in government. If you look at the resources I presided over, almost 2 trillion shillings in budget. That I ran the big ministries. I ran the Ministry of Education, I ran the Ministry of Interior. In 2017, across the elections, I was both the Minister for Education and Minister for Interior for about 7 months or so. No one can compromise me. That is beyond me completely. No one. And you record this today and hold me to account after I become president. No one can compromise me. I am not interested. I'm not looking for this job because I'm looking for money. Because if I wanted money, I would go elsewhere and then look for money and live comfort and do other things. I'm not looking for this because I'm looking for money. Not because I wouldn't love money and so on, but I think I've come to a point in my life where I'm beyond those types of things. No interest about flashing money around, the kind of conspicuous consumption I see, an opulent display of resources and so on, which is just kind of borders on primitivity, is not the kind of thing I would go into myself. So no one. I can tell you that for a fact. No one can compromise me. Everybody told me when I was in Jogo House, when I arrived, everybody told me you can't fight cartels in the examination cheating sector. In fact, most of all, they told me you can't fight cartels in the textbook distribution industry. 2 years later, when I left, we had achieved 1-to-1 textbook pupil ratio in the country, and we are studied around the world for that, for that achievement. So no one can compromise me.
So when people talk about cartels, because we've had cartels in the education sector, we've had cartels in the health sector, where it's a CS who's at the very top saying that, I'm going to change this, I'm going to do this. We are currently talking about SHA, and the promise was it's going to work for everybody. But 3 years later, it's total confusion. There's a lot of money being paid to hospitals that do not even exist. Some of the names you trace, it's a hospital that doesn't exist but has received millions and millions in terms of claims. This question of cartels that work around government, regardless of who is the leader, because you've worked in two critical dockets in government, who are these people? How do they operate? How do they hold hostage somebody who's a policy maker at the very top? In this case is a CS, or even the president for that matter? Or are they a creation then from the person who is at the helm? What is it?
You see then is the inconvenient truth that we and again, you guys in the media, I want to challenge you on this matter. The inconvenient truth that people do not discuss about the way we have managed public affairs in our country is that the power of money and corruption, it has invaded our political practice like a malignant cancer. Almost everybody bribes everybody. To get along, you have to, do all manner of crazy things. And because of that, we have systematically created an environment where, to be honest with you, if I were to be very sincere and tell you this, unless we get to this point and say we are cutting this cycle, I don't see how we are going to save our country. And that's where all this begins. And because of that, many people go into public office because they are looking for money. They want to make money, buy big things, properties, drive Range Rovers, and so on and so forth. And then the low level, it starts first of all with political accountability. The low level of political accountability. When people turn up, their constituencies, I ask myself this question: what did you think when you were electing this guy as your MP? What did you think? And how did you hope you are going to be saved? Because a guy came and told you, queue here, he gave you 1,000 shillings. And you never even asked him, where is the money from? Because you see, what would you have done when you are in your 30s to have enough money to give 40,000 people 1,000 shillings each? I gave this example when I was at the National Council for Administration of Justice retreat in Naivasha of a candidate who, at that particular time, because I was Minister for Interior, I could see, I could access the records of Interpol, a parliamentary candidate in Nairobi whose name was on the watch list of the Interpol. And this is a candidate, this is the person who was going across butcheries in his constituency in Nairobi and just paying anyone who wanted to come and take meat. He just pays for all the meat. He will just come and take your share and go away, and so on. Now, when people are doing all that, they don't ask themselves this simple question: what is the end game here? Because you see, you're doing this. When that fellow goes into office, he's going to look for an opportunity to make more of that money, because that is not his money. There are people who go to the villages and introduce themselves. Oh, this is a businessman in Nairobi. He doesn't tell people what business they do and where, with what investment. Some of these people you have seen around, the so-called empowerment campaign going on around the country. These fellows are flying helicopters, 9 helicopters, what have you, to a place they arrive. Some of these guys were giving 300,000, 400,000. That is definitely not their money. Because what were they doing? One of them was a guy who was a struggling lawyer the other day who probably could not even pay rent before he became an MP. Now he's the one giving 500,000, 600,000. The money is the proceeds of corruption. So all of us, especially you guys in the media, all of us must face this. Unless we address this issue, we are not going to resolve our problem. And yes, Dennis, those are now the cartels. So that the money is ring-fenced even at the budget-making process. Oh, this road is going to be done this way. Let's look for this contractor and so on. Investigate. Just check what happens and so on. So unless this is addressed succinctly and clearly,
it is not going to work. And the best way to address it is not to enact new laws, is not to build new institutions. Because we have enough laws, we have institutions, we can't create institutions eternally. What we need are people who will go into those offices who will say no. As Tony Blair says, the art of leadership is saying no. Yes is very easy to say. Saying no to this, I will not take this, I will not accept this, and so on. And when people are telling me this in Joe House, I told them, let us go and try. And I am the one who's paid to be here. I'm not making excuses. I will drive into schools and ask the bazaar, show me.
You as president?
I will ask. There's no way I cannot go. That's my responsibility. If I'm not able to serve the people, what stops me as president from going into Kenyatta National Hospital? That is my territory. I mean, that is the responsibility I have. People cannot be queuing there the whole day, for example, or seeking a service they can't get, and I'm lying about it and making excuses. I will not be told stories about service provision, service centers. I'll walk into Nyamweya House at the passport place and ask somebody, how long have you been waiting for your passport?
You've just talked about the Kenyatta National Hospital, and we just segue into the healthcare situation in the country. We have SHA, and at the formation of this service, 104 billion shillings has been spent to come up with this new system. But you talk to Kenyans, and accessing healthcare has become a problem. If you get there, how would you fix the healthcare situation in the country? Because Kenyans are getting sick, but not getting the service that they pay for.
Dennis, universal healthcare has been the dream of this country since independence. Every government tries to approach it their own way. What lacks this time is, you see, I'm not able to understand. We were carrying out a very far-reaching and radical reforms to the National Hospital Insurance Fund, backed by the World Bank. We abandoned them, just like that, and said, let us begin with SHA and SHE. What shocks me is that the leaders of that sector are not able to look you in the face, look cameras, and answer that question I said. Because the basic policy question every minister must answer is this: what are you doing and why are you doing it? They're not able to tell you, we left these reforms we're working on NHIF because of ABCD. We have now come here because of ABCD. Our anticipation is that we go forward and do this. It's all what I may call systems kiting, you know, buying this software, bringing this company and so on and so forth, and it's billions upon billions upon billions. Some of the leaders in that sector are shareholders in the companies that are involved in provision of those services. Surely, how much more foolish can we be as a society? And the services are not being provided. You see, when you raise these issues, the administration or those in the administration think, oh, you know, you are fighting government. There is no fight. The facts are there to speak for themselves. Let us solve this nonsense. Because wananchi are the best example, the best way of getting feedback. Everywhere I go to public meetings, I ask them, is this working? The answer you get is a resounding no. So if you are yourself the minister or the president for that matter, how can you be defending something the people you lead out there who are supposed to be experiencing your services tell you they are not getting it? So how can you insist the service is there? And those who receive it are saying it is not there. So who do you believe? I mean, it's like you insist that your children have food in the house. You have never bought any food and so on. And then you insist, no, they are fine. When you go there, they are starving. And you ask them, have you eaten the last 2 days? No. And then you insist, no, those kids are not serious. There is enough food.
So how critical is for the voice of Kenyans to be heard? Because for a very long time, public participation has always been a suggestion, even on matters to do with SHA and healthcare. Kenyans are saying it is not working, but government says it is working. So in government, in terms of feedback mechanism from Kenyans, how critical is it to pick that and fix the flaws that your citizens are telling you?
You see, if government is interested, they can do that. In cases where they are not interested in fixing the problem, they continue doing what they are doing. And that is why they spend time calling delegations and bribing them. You know what we have now in the country is government by bribery. You bribe people. What do you bribe your citizens when you are working for them? I mean, they know what you are doing. Governments run on their track record. Incumbent government run on their track record. I say this, and I'm repeating it here today for all and sundry to hear, that if government was delivering services, wananchi would be telling us leaders in the opposition, hey, Jameni, why don't you give these guys one term so that they can complete this project? Why, hold on, give them time to, So, because everywhere you go, wananchi ask, give them time to do what? That is it. incumbent government run on their track record. So this administration spends tons and tons of money on bloggers, on propaganda, on paying bloggers to lie, and to character assassinate the leaders in the opposition and so on. They wouldn't be doing that if they were providing the services. And I've often said, by the way, and I hope one day I'll have an opportunity to discuss some of these issues, especially on feedback. I don't know, I can advise them for free. They would spend less money, they will have less stress by doing the right thing and listening to an angel. Just get your work done and listen to an angel. That's all. So these stories. I know I tell people, onyesha kazi bwana. Onyesha kazi. To show us the work so that we stop talking about what you're doing. So these good people have got to step up and understand that feedback is very important. But because they don't care about that feedback, why would they be bribing people in villages with the 64 shillings, 100 shillings, flying all over the place, giving people money? If you're working, if you're confident of yourself as government, why would you be bribing people? Huddling people in a place and room, giving them money, bringing delegations, bringing teachers.
Well, it's empowerment money. They're empowering the youth.
You got it right. Yeah. Your answer is as good as mine. that is it.
Right. So as we hear these things, I mean, there seems to be so much that is not working at the moment, and not just seems to be. That is the reality on the ground. And so, what is required, in your opinion, to fix everything that's not working at the moment and stop new projects? We saw that in a previous administration, that very thing happened. That all of this new project, new funding was put to a halt, and things were sorted out, and we actually saw the economy grow. It's documented. Do you think that's the way to go, and how would you go about it?
I am lucky or fortunate to have been through Executive Order number 1 of 2019. I became the chair of the coordination of cabinet affairs, especially projects and our investment in the country, which gave me a very unique and unparalleled opportunity to every week sit with all my cabinet colleagues to look at the government investment and government projects across what was doing well, what was not doing well, and so on. The first thing is focus. You know, as government, you focus on what needs to be done, making a decision on what you will focus on. The classic example is the education sector. President Mwai Kibaki came to power. He focused on enrollment and access. He wanted to make sure all kids in Kenya accessed education and they were enrolled. That is how he came up with free primary education, 1 million kids in school, and we continued. In a decade, by the time Uhuru Kenyatta was becoming president, Kibaki's kids, as we used to call them, had come now to secondary schools. They needed more places. Uhuru started focusing on retention and completion, that these kids stay in the education system and they complete so that we don't engage in wastage. What is the focus of this administration? I don't know. You see, in every sector of the economy, you must make a decision, first of all, as government. What are you going to focus on? Because this is the reality of life, and let us just be frank with each other. You cannot do everything. There's no government anywhere on earth that will wake up in the morning and within a space of 5 years or a space of 10 years do everything they can do to make everyone happy. That is why we go to elections every other time to renew mandate or get a new government so that we continue on a particular trajectory. Vision 2030 was supposed to be a collective, involving, all-inclusive framework of developing the country. So we are supposed to look at that and say, okay, our challenge now is we have introduced a new education system. We are now focusing on skills for development and transforming the way we train for the 21st century. That is the focus. So what are we then going to do in this case to achieve what we are doing? So if you narrow down your focus to the things that you need to do, you look at the security sector, our current challenges are these. So how do we move to the next level? Focus is very important. If you ask me to be very honest with you, and if leaders of the administration want to be sincere about it, there's only one word you can use to describe their public policy infrastructure: chaotic. Yeah, chaotic. You from the hustler fund to I don't know what, everything. So sometimes you don't know whether the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. So when there's lack of focus in a case like that, you are not likely to run a government effectively. Two. And Uhuru Kenyatta summarizes it very well. He says in corporate world, in the private sector, we always look at the bottom line at the end of the trading year. In public service, we look at the welfare line. Are the people better today than they were last time? What can I do to address the welfare of these people? So sporadic actions that are uncoordinated and focused and so on will not lead you to having the sum total of improved welfare of the citizens. So you again look at the welfare of the people you deal with. Are you overburdening these people? Are you providing respite for their earnings to grow so that you can move forward? And this is not rocket science. This is something that is critical. And thirdly, which I think are very important, in a democracy, it is governance by deliberation. People don't have to necessarily experience good governance. They need to be part of that particular process. You see, a government whose leaders swear at the people they lead, that doesn't work. It's a case where it's government by deliberation. Parliament has a critical role to play, and sometimes even the executive branch of government should challenge Parliament itself, or even use Parliament as an avenue to ventilate and deal with some of the issues that have happened in a country. We engage directly with private sector players, so the society feels that you are driving in the same direction, as it were, because stability does not come from absence of conflict or absence of challenges in the country. Stability comes from contentment, people feeling involved, and so on. When President Kibaki was sworn into office in 2002, the Afrobarometer Index showed that Kenyans were some of the happiest people in the world. He had done nothing in 2 or 3 months, and people were happy. Why they were feeling happy is that they felt involved. They felt that their role was recognized. They felt that when they raised questions, they were answered. The feedback that Dennis talks about, that the feedback was treated seriously. How can a government insist that we are doing so well? It is you who doesn't understand what we are doing. And I mean, are we all a nation of fools? It's not possible. So when all these things are done...
Well, in that regard, President Ruto, in this case, there was a point in time where he actually talked about this, and it was clear he was frustrated that the cabinet secretaries who were managing these different dockets were not articulating or communicating what government was doing, and therefore leading to the confusion and the lack of knowledge or information that people had. And he said he knew more about some of the line ministries than the people who are actually supposed to be the managers themselves.
I am very respectful of people. William Ruto is the president of the Republic of Kenya. There's language I cannot use, but let me tell you the truth. That kind of statement and that admission is astounding, to say the least. Who appoints those ministers?
The president.
So how can I come here and complain to you about my appointees? And unangoja firimbi anani to sack them, and to discipline them, to demand of the standards for them, and so on. How can you, that in itself, to be honest with you, if you took it and write a paper, you can write a nice paper on the tradition and the ecosystem of conduct of public affairs in the administration. From that alone, you can write a paper. Because it tells you many things. There is no way the head of state can tell you he understands more about the ministries than the people he has appointed. Maybe it is the ecosystem issue. I can only talk about a cabinet I served under and a president I served under, because it was constant debate, it was constant engagement. Sometimes we would agree with I would disagree with my president on a number of things. He would give me an opportunity to express myself. He would give my colleagues an opportunity to express themselves, and he would be willing to, come to a middle ground, and even sometimes vacate his position if he didn't have all the information you had. In some cases, there are areas where you cannot negotiate with the president because it's a singular position under the constitution. When he takes certain decisions, especially on security and so on, you comply because it's the head of state. But he explains to you respectively, this is why I've done this is why I need to do this, and so on. You're my program officer for that particular department. I want ABCD. How can you come around and say that if you have incompetent people, they are not your children. Your children are the ones you cannot part with because they are your children. You give back to them or you put them. How can you complain about an incompetent cabinet? And you are the one who appointed it.
So in all this, Dr. Fred, if you said you would want to get that opportunity, and if you get it, you would want to serve Kenyans as the president, but you can't work alone. You have to work with people. So at the moment, are you part of what is now being referred to as the united opposition? Are you part of them?
Yes.
We've had instances where they have accused you of being a mole. You've worked closely with the former president Uhuru Kenyatta.
Somebody's project.
They've said you're a government project. We've actually hosted people who are working closely with the top leadership of the United Opposition, that is Rigathi Gachagua, former deputy president. And if you are part of the United Opposition, and people have also questioned, the Gen Zs, to be specific, have said, you know what, we want to do with this old guard. We are tired of the same faces that we've seen. Some of us were born when some of these people who say that they will take our country to a different trajectory were in power. They served as ministers. They served as deputy presidents, for example. Some of them have integrity questions. Some of them served and there were corruption allegations, but they have all come together as part of a united opposition. When you say you are now with them, how does that settle with you, with all these issues notwithstanding?
Thank you for that question, Dennis. You know, the truth of the matter is this. Kenyans, everywhere you go, and I've had, since I came back from the bank at the end of August, early September is when my contract ended, I've had numerous meetings with Kenyans across the board, all walks of life and so on. In fact, before I made the decision to come and run for president, I had numerous meetings with people. Sometimes I tell people, well, I ask myself whether I want to run for president or I'm being dragged by the collar by some sections of the country to go and run for president. Kenyans want the opposition or the people outside of government to work together. And they work together not because they are holy or they have arrived from heaven, but because of one single objective: to try and give Kenya a better government, an alternative government. So I don't think the opposition is going to be like the Vatican with bishops and priests. It is just going to be the opposition that reflects Kenya. And human beings, leaders who come from various walks of life, who have different experiences, different talents, different histories, and different strengths to bring together. Essentially, what the country is looking forward to is to bring together this tapestry of experience, background, whatever, and then try to give Kenya an alternative government. I understand the impatience of Kenyans. You know, when you have an administration that has performed the way this has done, the frustrations that Kenyans have every day, I understand when they behave sometimes like they would like things to happen tomorrow. You know, they wish that the opposition came together tomorrow, hammered out everything tomorrow, and then from there, created government. But and unfortunately, in reality, that is not how it works. The unity of opposition or the unity of purpose is going to happen in spite of the differences of opinion, differences of background, differences of age, differences of experiences, and so on and so forth. Otherwise, if it was a very easy matter, people would meet in a room one day, by the evening they have told you this is going to be our opposition leader and so on. That is also another joke that I don't think the country should be taken through. It is going to be a painstaking experience of aligning visions, harmonizing perspectives, and so on. So that process, that integrative process, will also be a process of team building and creating an infrastructure that will alleviate some of the governance pains of this country.
But why will they call you a government project or a mole?
Well, you see, I'll explain. I don't know why, but I'll explain my case. As for whether or not, I'm someone's project, I cannot rewrite history. I served as a cabinet minister under President Uhuru Kenyatta. As to whether or not that makes me his project, honestly, it's just splitting hairs at the end of the day, because people will say that, and then they say that, you are Uhuru's project, and they themselves are looking for the same Said Uhuru to talk to, and so on. I saw here when President Kenyatta went to State House to attend discussions on DRC Congo on behalf of the East African community. State House stopped everything they were doing that day and filled the social media with pictures. I think every single gesture, turn, nuance, and everying of
meant that there was a partnership in the offing.
It was all over social media and so on, in some very, desperado type approach. That is the same Uhuru that they are talking about.
And in any case, by the way, everybody knows Uhuru was a successful president. Who wouldn't want to be associated with a successful president? But as to whether or not I am his project, that is the common gossip and
but is it true?
Nonsense. Yeah.
But is it true?
I'm not running for president because Uhuru told me to run for president. I took a decision to run for president. And there could be 3 or 4 other people in his cabinet, like Wamalwa, who are ministers with me in the same cabinet, who are interested in the presidency. So who is the project? Why am I the project and not Wamalwa? Because you see, Wamalwa was Minister for Defense, I was Minister for Interior in the same cabinet. The current president was his deputy. Probably would be more a project than myself, because if ranking is the issue, he would be more the project than me. And I keep asking people every day, after I left the government, I went and took up a contract. I hired on a competitive basis. Who did not take me there. I was hired on a competitive basis, took up a contract with the bank, worked on it and finished, came back. How is it that nobody is saying I'm the bank's project? Because that is where...
Well, the association also with his party, Jubilee Party is what they refer to. Why wouldn't Fred Matiang'i form his own party? Like Rigathi Gachagua went formed his own party. You have Wamala who has his own party. Kalonzo has his own party. Martha Karua has his own party. Justin Muturi has his party. Everybody around has his party apart from Dr. Fred Matiang'i.
But you see, again, how is it that the flip side of that argument is this? How is it that you're not crediting me for consistency? I served in the Jubilee administration under Jubilee president, implemented Jubilee policies. Why would I walk away from them now and go to articulate other policies? I believed in them then, I believe in them now. I believed in that system of management, I believe in it now. The flip side of it is that, how is it that you're not looking at my consistency, that I am consistent? I did not say things then that I will regret today. That what I told Kenyans then and how I worked then is how I would like to continue working. Because the flip side of it is to look at the consistency of it. That I am consistent in the manner in which I do stuff. I have remained faithful to the public service journey that I have walked. I have not changed. I'm not flip-flopping. Today I'm talking Jubilee, tomorrow I'm talking other things. How is it that you are not crediting me for consistency in an environment where some of these people you are talking about have jumped parties 6, 7, 8 times, and that doesn't even make them, any better.
Yeah. Speaking of, you stick to policies and you stick to issues, but of course, the tribal card comes into play here at some point, and somehow you've managed to stay away from such leanings. Is there an importance when tribal politics comes into play, and are you leaning in that direction?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. Because you see, why would I do that? You see, okay, I don't like spending time talking about myself and so on. You look at my working life. Except the 10 years I worked in the public service, most of my working life has been in the international environment. I have done interviews where I am hired by people who are not even Africans in the first place. I submit myself to an interview process. I have been supervised by people who are not even Africans and filed reports. Some of the positions I've held before, I wouldn't survive if I didn't perform. And then the people who are supervising me were not from my tribe or even my country for that matter, or my region. So I'm not socialized in my career, and the things I've done before and how I've worked have not been socialized in an environment where the seminal place of tribe and region is that important. When I left government in 2022 after the elections, I applied for a job at the bank. I was interviewed twice for the job. In fact, the second interview, there wasn't even an African on the panel. And I believe that what we are seeking is to provide a contribution, and that contribution you can make because of how God has endowed you with the ability that you have to make it. Because honestly speaking, whatever people do, and indeed for that reason, I am not, the right person because I don't hang on tribes and so on. So be it. Because you see, they mean nothing at the end of the day. My tribe never changed. I was the same one as the Minister of Education. I'm the same one today. I was the same one as the Minister of Interior. I'm the same one today. When I fought digital migration, nobody cares to even ask the question, what would have happened if we had not migrated at that time? Look at our digital environment in the country today. I was the same tribe. I've never changed my tribe. But what drove me then, now, and always is get something done. Get some work done. And when you go, there's no job anywhere you will do. Dennis, wherever you are going to be hired, especially in the international environment, you're not hired and told, okay, we have hired you today as the regional director for Sunni, or the regional representative for Sunni in East and Southern Africa. Now, please come with your staffers. Bring your secretary, bring your accountant and everybody. You are hired, you turn up in that environment. And you find these people. The guy from Ghana is your program manager. This fellow from South Africa is the fellow from Zimbabwe is this and so. You sit there and get some work done. And then you find a way of making things happen in that particular environment. You imagine an institution like the bank. You are not told, okay, now we have hired you. What you do, can you come from Nairobi or from Keroka with your staffers? You are just given a job, and people expect the results from you, and they will assess you, and they will deal with you on the basis of the results that you register.
But that's different from our politics, isn't
you
it?
See, the question is, we are dealing with a population that is fast resisting that nonsense. Because you see, if you look at our younger people in this country, especially the Gen Zs, that thing called tribe doesn't matter to them. They're asking for results. They're asking for things to be done. Everywhere I go, when I meet these young people, I was in a meeting in Minnesota, meeting Kenyans. Then a nice young woman was invited from the audience, and there is no way on earth I would have known who she is. All I knew is that she was Kenyan because it was a Kenyan meeting. And she went to the mic and said, I was a Form 4 student when you were CS Education. I went to Moi and Nairobi Girls. I was thoroughly impressed by what happened at that time, and you will have my vote, especially because if you do the same things the way you did them at that particular time. What does that tell me? It tells me that all Kenyans actually are looking for services. And then why are you hiding in your tribe? And how is it that it's only in politics where this makes sense? When you go to Nairobi Hospital and you are sick, I've given these people an example all the time. Would you look at the board and say, let me see if my tribesman is on duty today before I'm treated? There is no doctor. I can look at the names. There is no doctor from my tribe. I'm walking away. And you are sick. You are there because you want to be treated.
Yes.
So you go there, the fellow, sometimes you don't even know the tribal background of the nurse who's dealing with you.
Indeed. We want to hear that you will come again. We've done 2 hours and you didn't even know it. And that's how time flies. There's still a year ahead, and there's a lot of talking to Kenyans to be done. Can we have you come again?
No problem. I will gladly do when you give me an opportunity, because I can't seek to lead people I do not talk to or listen to, and I would like to see your views. And if there are any questions members of the public have asked that I have not answered, I can curate them. I always answer them through the social platforms that we have, or when I come next time, I can answer them. I'm willing, ready, and available to respond to any issues that arise, because, that is the staff of public leadership. And I remember that today is election day in Tanzania.
Yes.
I'm very, very worried and frustrated by the declining level of democracy in the region and the kind of things we are seeing happening in the region. I hope that our brothers and sisters in Tanzania, get what they deserve and that democracy takes root. We should not be happy when, people in our neighborhood are having challenges. And as I said, whether it's about Boniface Mwangi and Agatha being mistreated in Tanzania, or Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo disappearing in Uganda, or whether it's Musandu's death that we have not unraveled and conclusively investigated in Kenya, as long as God gives us life, we should strive always to make tomorrow a better day than today. And I hope that, the elections in Tanzania go the right way, although all of us must be concerned about the declining levels of democracy, the abuse of freedoms, and so on in the region. And then, by the way, you should have given me an opportunity, but I don't think we have the time to comment about the new cyber laws.
Indeed. We don't have time. That means you must come much faster. But let the time not be too long between the next time you come. But we've got to thank you for being here this morning. Appreciate then being able to have this discourse with you and put to task some of the issues that Kenyans are really concerned about in terms of who's going to be their next leader. Dr. Fred Matiang'i, thank you for being here on the hot seat of the Situation Room this morning. Asante sana. Till the next time, everybody. Good morning. 4 minutes past 9.
Thank you.
It is now 9 a.m. with ICEA Lion. Insurance and investment made simple for people like you, courtesy of ICEA Lion.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. A mother from Bahati in Nakuru, whose son was lured to Russia, believes he's now fighting for the country in its war with Ukraine after she lost contact with him. Wangari Ruben Dungu, aged 29, left Kenya in August after a local agency claimed it had secured a job for him in Russia to work as a security guard. Dungu's mother, who's now appealing to the government to help rescue him, says she visited the Russian embassy on Monday, but it denied processing his visa. This comes amid diplomatic efforts to secure the release of Kenyans duped into joining the Russia-Ukraine conflict under false pretenses. This man is among those who've been repatriated.
So kuuliza tuna sign contract gani, wakasema kama agent wenyu wakuambia kitu mnakuja kufanya vizuri, nyinyi sahi ni military. Ifika huko the next day wakatupeleka training, camp ya training. Tulipewa training for like 4 days. The 5th day tulitoka. So training 4 days, hujai kuwa kwa military, umepewa trained for 4 days, alafu unapelekwa frontline. Unapata watu wamepigwa na drone, wamekufa. Watu walimanage kupita na bag, unaweza vuta bag yake, upate maji ama upate biscuit, vitu kama hizo, ama upate hizi food za can. Yeah, kidogo, but hizo tulipata tu za 3 days. Zingine tulisurvive tu maji, vitu kama hizo, and then unaona saa zingine una bleed na huko hakuna mtu anaweza kurescue.
Machakos County Deputy Governor Francis Mungai has hit out as President William Ruto for failing to end the lecturer strike, which has dragged on for more than 40 days now. It comes a day after University of Nairobi students threatened to take to the streets in protest if the government fails to address the lecturers' demands by today. The lecturers are demanding 7.9 billion shillings based on a previous agreement, a claim the government has repeatedly denied. According to Mungai, President Ruto has thrown into doubt his own bold promise to transform Kenya into a first world country, given his inaction over the lecturer strike.
You know there is a problem. Mashule zetu za universities zote zimefungwa. Wale watoto wetu wako huko hawajaenda nyumbani, wanangojea hii strike iishe, national strike. Huyu rais wetu wakati anatembea anafanya nini? Si akae chini ya solve that one first. Atatembea kila mahali. Watoto wetu wa vyuo vikuu wanaharibikia shule. Hatujui wanafanya nini. Wengine nimeona wanafanya kazi kwa mijengo. And we have a president who is talking about transforming the country to a level of Singapore. Sasa, how are you transforming when you are killing the education sector?
LSK President Faith Odhiambo has strongly condemned an incident where a 17-year-old boy was allegedly assaulted by police officers at Nasosura Police Station in Narok County. The teenager, identified as Felix, was admitted to Narok County Referral Hospital, having sustained serious injuries to the legs. Addressing journalists at the facility, Odhiambo stressed the need for a thorough probe and prosecution of officers involved.
As a law society, we condemn that with the strongest terms. The constitution that we have today ensures and envisages that we have the right of innocence, right to a free and fair trial, irrespective of the fact that he may or may not have committed a criminal offense, that he's able to plead his case without any duress, and that he's able to get representation for his case, and will be moving to court to move the court to review the orders and or appeal the orders that were issued, so that Felix can first of all get proper treatment.
At the same time, the boy's mother decried police harassment and called on investigative agencies to ensure that justice is served.
Naomba tu haki kwa mtoto wangu, isiyo ya mara ya kwanza na sio mara ya pili. Kuna wakati tu walimpiga akisema ameiba simu ikaenda kupatikana kwa mtu mwingine. Na mwenye alifanya hivyo ni same police, na nikienda huko ananiharasa, hata mtoto kuletwa mpaka hapa sikuwa nimemuona, walininyima kumuona.
Cameroon's Interior Minister Paul Atanga says opposition leader Issa Bakari will face legal action over allegations he incited violent post-election demonstrations. At least 4 protesters have been killed during clashes between security forces and opposition supporters since Cameroon's election on October the 12th, with 92-year-old President Paul Biya winning an 8th consecutive term. Okari insists he won the election, a claim dismissed by Biya's ruling party, the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement. Violent crackdowns by police and security officers on protesters have alarmed the international community, with the UN, African Union and EU calling for restraint. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, "Staki kuongea today." Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 12 minutes after 9 o'clock and into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Wednesday. There you go, I got it right. And coming off of conversations and continuing with others. And we get into another one this hour. And as we do that, we're going to now go into a very wide space, but a critical space when it comes into enterprises. We already know that in order to build robust economies, small and medium enterprises then must be the heartbeat. We're going to be looking into venture capital for African enterprises. Joining us in the studio in the hot seat is the head of the regional hub for East Africa at the European Investment Bank. Edward Klassen is here with us this morning. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Karibu sana. So we're looking into that conversation in a bit, but Dennis is going to take you to a different African country. So, imagine that you're there. Imagination is a wonderful thing. And I guess you'll give us more information.
So the country we are in is Sao Tome and Principe, right? So it is located in the Gulf of Guinea off the west coast of Central Africa near Equatorial Guinea. We're talking about a country, the population around 247,000. And its main export is cocoa. So if you're a lover of chocolate, perhaps you've had a piece of Sao Tome and Principe. But the proverb that we get from this country today, the sun rises for everyone. The sun rises for everyone. How would you interpret that?
Well, that's a beautiful proverb, and I think it's true. Some of the best things in life, like the sun, what the sun has to offer, is the same for everybody, whether you're poor or rich. So I think it's a beautiful proverb.
Well, yeah, cuts across. regardless of where you fall in the stratosphere.
All right. Well, I mean, a great way to look at it, for sure. And as we get into this conversation, into the waves of it, let's do some definitions first of all. Venture capitalism, we hear it all the time. Enterprise and necessity for economy and across the board. Start with venture capitalism. What is this as an ism?
So venture capital is basically risk capital that you provide to private companies. Most of the time people talk about investments into companies. We're always talking about the larger companies that are listed on the stock exchange. But where did all these companies come from? They once, back in the day, were also small companies. And to start up your company, you generally start with either your own savings or with some money from friends and family. But those amounts are often quite limited. If you really want to grow your business, at some point you need to start raising money from venture capitalists. So venture capital in general is done by fund managers who go out with a certain strategy and kind of an idea of how they can make good returns by investing in startups. And with that idea, they go to investors, including us at the European Investment Bank. So they try to raise a fund targeting, as I said, certain countries, certain regions, certain sectors to then go and find the best opportunities. So that, in a nutshell, is venture capital. It's highly risky. It's generally aimed at companies that are not able to go to a bank yet, so they don't have revenues. They might not have the collateral. They're loss-making generally, but they have a great idea. And very often it's also businesses that have really the opportunity to scale up. So it's not your bread and butter small business on the corner of the street. It's people with game-changing ideas, big plans to make a real impact on the economy.
Okay.
Yet, when you look at Africa as a continent, 18% of the world's population gets between 1 to 2% of the global venture capital, which asks the question why and what must Africa do to bridge that gap?
Yeah, it's a very good point. Unfortunately, Africa is lacking, let's say, in getting money from abroad. This is, in my view, due to the risks that people perceive. Some of it is perceived risk. Some of it is maybe real risk. Maybe let me give you some examples. I mean, in Africa, it's not so easy to sell your product to other African markets. The infrastructure is not always in place, or maybe not at the level that it should be. Investors from abroad and businesses in general like predictable, stable government regulations, regulatory frameworks, transparent tax systems, and in those areas, I think Africa can still make some steps to improve. So this is, some of this is real risk, some of it is perceived risk. And to change this, to go up and make sure that Africa gets more of its fair share of capital, I think those areas need to be addressed. What Africa has to offer, and I think that's why it is a very interesting continent to look at. It has a very young population, well educated, very entrepreneurial, certainly here in Kenya. So I think there's also a lot of upside. I don't want to just stress the downside. I think there's a lot of upside, there's a lot of possibilities, but it needs more capital to give the people the chance to set up their business.
Would this need a bedrock of government with systems in place then that would allow these kind of processes to then kick off?
So with the bedrock, you mean
systems working? Because I can get the capital, can't I? As a business, if I present my case properly, I can get capital essentially to run things. But if I'm operating in country, then there's certain systems, systemic infrastructure that must be in place in order for me to run the business. Can it work if there's money coming in from here, wherever that fund may be, and then if we don't have the proper infrastructure needed to boost or to guide the business?
So I mean, there is venture capital in Africa, and there are, and certainly here in Kenya, there is there are of course very you have a well functioning government. But what I'm saying is, especially I think business environment, conducive business environment in some parts of Africa could be improved. As I said, investors always look for predictable and stable outlook in terms of what will be the regulatory framework, what will be the policies, what is the taxation, but also maybe trade agreements between countries. That will all, if you compare Africa, for example, to Europe or to other parts of that, there has been, we've had more time, but there's been more progress, let's say. So I think there it would be helpful, and I think it would support more capital flowing into Africa if there are steps to be done there.
Okay. So there's the Boost Africa program. What is this?
So Boost Africa, let me take a step back. So Boost Africa, the European Union has a program called Global Gateway, which is to support economic and development ties with partner countries. And it very much has a strong focus on Africa. Under this Global Gateway initiative, there is a program called Invest in Young Businesses in Africa, IYBA. This is a 4.8 billion euro program targeting the whole of Africa. And as the name says, it is very much targeting, supporting startups and businesses in Africa. And under that program, we have a program called Boost Africa. Now, Boost Africa is specifically targeting venture capital, as you said. It's targeting innovation. It's targeting entrepreneurship. So how do we do it? Boost Africa has now started in 2020. It is an initiative by us, the European Investment Bank, together with the African Development Bank, and supported by the European Commission. And we have now made investments in 6 funds, 6 venture capital funds that most of them are also based here in Nairobi. And they are now going out and support startups and entrepreneurs in the market.
Okay. So what are some of the achievements that these Boost Africa has pretty much achieved so far? Because it has been meant to enable entrepreneurs to be able to get this funding. So what are the achievements? Because for others to jump up on it, something has to show.
Yes. So before I tell you about the achievements, maybe also I forgot one thing to mention. What is so specific about Boost Africa? What is so unique? I think Boost Africa has 2 sides that are pretty unique. One is we provide higher risk, let's say, risk capital, but we take more of the risk than the other investors into a fund. So we take what is called a junior tranche or subordinated tranche. What does it mean? It means we are de-risking the investment in venture capital for other investors. If there would be any losses, we are the funds to take them. So this, of course, makes it much more attractive for others to come into these funds. And as I said, one of the reasons venture capital is lacking in Africa is the perceived risk. So if we can take that away, it of course makes it more attractive. That's one of the aspects. The other aspect is we are also providing grants and technical assistance. So this is money for entrepreneurs to learn how to set up a business, to learn how to set up a proper governance of your company, how to do the reporting, how to network, how to expand your product. So really, let's say how to be more successful at running a business. Now, to come back to your question, the results so far have been very, very encouraging. We have already created and sustained more than 15,000 jobs, and these are generally high-quality jobs for, in very interesting sectors. We have put 78 million euros into these funds, and they, on the back of that, and given that we have taken more of the risk, that has attracted 382 million euros from other investors. And more than 70 companies have already been supported. Very interesting companies like Power Internet here in Kenya, making internet available in underserved areas. Shamba Pride, connecting 80,000 farmers across the country to tech platforms to be able to run their business better. Turaco Insurance, for people many people in Kenya make their money off their mobile, and they are with their insurance product are helping this. So it's really. It has a significant impact on innovation, on job creation, on giving people a chance to grow their business. We're very happy with the results so far. And the program hasn't finished yet. So even though we have invested in 6 funds, these 6 funds are still continuing to invest in the market. So we expected another 50 companies at least to benefit from this program. And it will take another 1 or 2 years at least for the program to be fully invested. So people can still benefit from the current program.
I mean, tech and innovation is such a buzzword globally. That's what everybody's talking about, from business to governance. Companies are evolving and adopting innovation. We're talking about artificial intelligence today, and so many things are changing. But looking at this 15,000 that you're earlier talking about in terms of jobs, and looking at the portfolio then in terms of the sectors that you're attracting, what are like the top 3 or the top 4, the top 5 sectors?
So we don't prescribe. So the way the model works is we invest in the funds that we believe have the best opportunity to find the best companies. And of course, we agree which sectors, which countries they go to. But we leave it up to the local people, the local fund managers based here in Nairobi and based across Africa to find those best opportunities. We believe that's the best model. So they would be much better at finding those opportunities, understanding the local content than we would be from abroad. But let's say the sectors that we see the most potential currently and very interesting opportunities are sectors like digital connectivity, fintechs, climate solutions. But we also have, we've seen good opportunities in healthcare. So it's, I wouldn't want to pick one sector. You're often surprised when you are in the investment. When I look back on making investments, sometimes the most interesting opportunities are coming from a sector you expect the least. So I think anything is possible I
expected manufacturing, for example.
Manufacturing is, yes. No, it's also a sector that the Boost program is focusing on.
Okay.
So even as you look at, and it just, if you said that there are a number of fund managers, but at the same time, there are a number of businesses that have been supported to do what it is that they do, whether agriculture, technology, and all of this across board. So who then, and how then, is this found? I mean, it sounds like such a rudimentary question, but how the entrepreneur who is sitting saying, I need to be able to get from here to here, because that's when we're really going to see the thing doing what it does. How do they find such? How do they know that it exists in the first place?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think, the entrepreneurs in Kenya, let's say, if we focus on Kenya for a moment, they will know the venture capital funds that are active here. I mean, they don't necessarily have to know us because they don't have to talk directly to us. As I said, we invest in local fund managers. They then go and find the opportunities. So there is, of course, already a very vibrant venture capital segment here in Kenya. It's still, we are trying to make it bigger and more liquid and with our products. But so these entrepreneurs, I'm sure, like if I give you some names of the fund managers we've supported, like Seedstars, like Africa Invest, like TLCom, Django, Atlantica, and Partech. I mean, most of these funds are either present here, have offices here, and they go to all the networking events, to the industry events. So I think these entrepreneurs, once they have already built a small company, maybe with their own savings, they will know how to reach out to these venture capital lists. If not, I mean, we do have a website at the EIB, and on our website you have a page to Boost Africa, and there are contact details also for you to be put in touch with the right fund managers.
Most of the time, I find I've accessed the funds that I need for my business to grow, and I'm just looking at after the fact now there is access to the market, because at the end of the day, we all get into business to make money and to grow, right? So here's a question where EIB has come, European Commission is behind it. But assuming I'm in the agriculture sector, I want to access the European market. Does the partnership or working together with EIB open doors for that? Do you guide these entrepreneurs on how to access these markets, perhaps?
I wish we could, but no, I wouldn't say we do this directly. But talking about agriculture, and one of the companies that we have supported through this program is Shamba Pride. Clearly, we are in regular contact with that company and other companies. So if they have any specific questions, of course we can on a case-by-case basis help them. But I think what the program helps is that these companies are becoming bigger and better and more profitable, and if they have and they're growing their staff, so of course that will also enable them to have somebody looking into how to do this. We have the European delegation here as well, able to support with help companies open up to the European market and vice versa from Europe to here. So I would say there are possibilities, but it's not. It will be too difficult to support each and every company individually. We have here in Nairobi, we have an office here now for 20 years, but we have 25 people, mainly Kenyan nationals. But it's not. We are not able to.
How do you divide between the European Investment Bank's mandate and the mandate of countries to reach specific economic, goals by a certain time? Most countries have vision plans, 2030, add 25 years to that, etc., etc. Is it just the European Investment Bank doing or fulfilling a mandate where they're saying some of these funds that are available, let's see how we can use them somewhere else? Or is it in partnership with countries who have a specific economic mandate to fulfill a certain thing by a certain time?
Let me maybe take a step back and introduce a little bit what the European Investment Bank has done in Africa and in Kenya. So we've been investing in Africa since the 1960s, so for a very long time. We did our first project in Kenya in 1977. And over the last decades, we've invested more than 1.8 billion euros into Kenya, into more than 70 different projects. We support both the public sector and the private sector, and more than 700 million out of that 1.8 billion has gone to the private sector. So more than 40% of our financing goes to supporting the private sector. So we've been here for a long time. We've been very active. Maybe to give you some example of the public sector projects that are very visible maybe in the market as well. We are currently financing the expansion of the road between Mombasa and Mariakani. In Kisumu, we have a water purification and sewerage project. We have been long-standing partners of the geothermal expansion, the geothermal plants in Okari with Kengen. And I could name a few others. We can get to that later if you want. In terms of your question specifically, yes, it's not only what we want to do in Europe and then force it on here. We definitely work with our partner countries. Kenya is a key partner. We look at what the Kenyan government wants. So what are the projects they would like to achieve, and what are the milestones they have and the goals they have. And then we check if that fits with EU policy. So if it's in a sector that the EU wants to support, let's say digital, let's say climate, renewable energy, many sectors, water, we then try and find a good way to work together and finance a certain projects. So I think it's very much together with our partner countries.
I mean, if you talk about Boost Africa, beyond access to capital, and you're looking at somebody doing a business, and they want to have a relationship. So beyond the money that they're getting to start or to expand, for in that case, how do you build long-term prosperity with this person? How do you work then with these individuals, not just funding, but ensuring that they're raising their productivity and they're achieving their goals?
Yes, that's very important. I mean, the program is more than money alone. As I said, there is also a grant facility connected to it. It's a 2 million euro grant facility that is focused on capacity building, technical assistance, and as I said earlier, really focused on helping these entrepreneurs how to set up a business, how to run a business, and how to be more successful, hopefully. But what is very important in the venture capital industry in general is not so much what we do as an investor, it is what the fund manager does. So the Seed Stars, the Africa Invests, the TLComs of the world, they generally take a big equity stake in these companies, and they will be very involved in supporting these companies how to grow. So they take a board seat. And venture capitalists in general have a very wide experience within their team. They have the networks, they have the understanding of the sector, they either have been entrepreneurs themselves or are very well connected to people who know the sectors very well. So they are very much there to support entrepreneurs and put them in contact with the relevant people, maybe with government, maybe with how to launch a new product, maybe how to go to another country. So the support system a venture capitalist gives is much more than just money. It is really helping with strategic decisions, with maybe how to be more efficient, as you say, or maybe how to make sure you have an excellent corporate governance, which is very important. All those type of things they can help with. So it's money, and a lot of support and a lot of guidance and opening up the network that they have.
I think about the sustainability aspect of a lot of these businesses, or for entrepreneurs who will get into business and then get the much needed access credit. As you know, one of the reasons why businesses or the economy will not grow to an extent that we want it to is because these businesses, these MSMEs that would essentially receive this money, the access to credit is one of the largest, one of the biggest, hurdles, exactly. What's the assurance, or what's the work that's being done to ensure that these businesses have longevity, are sustainable over time? A couple of years ago, some of really bright star businesses shut down in Kenya because of many reasons. But what's to ensure that they go through the cycle of a business and keep going towards developed cycles of businesses?
Well, to maybe disappoint you, assurances there are none. Venture capital is a high-risk game. We should not forget that. So the way it works, a venture capital firm is clearly interested in trying to back the best firms, because only if the venture capital firm is able to return the money, and on top of it a very nice return, will that firm be able to raise another fund in the future. So they're very much incentivized to look for the best, the most profitable opportunities. And the way it works in venture capital as well is they don't invest in one or two companies. A fund will invest in probably around 15 to 20 companies in general. So it's true that even though at the time of investment they have a strong belief that all these 15 or 20 companies will be the next superstars, the reality is that some of them will not make it. That has to be compensated by hopefully some others in the same portfolio that are doing extraordinarily well and make up for the losses. Clearly, the ones that make it are the ones that will grow fast, that will provide a lot of job opportunities for other people, and provide tax revenues down the line as well for the government. So it's a real positive impact for the economy in terms of job creation, in terms of tax revenues, and just in terms of growing the economy and providing opportunities. And the venture capitalists will also be very, very incentivized to make sure that the companies, the ones that are promising, are getting their full support. So they will be looking to make sure they don't fall off the cliff or miss or take the wrong decisions. But I mean, to come back to my first statement, there is no guarantee. Some very promising companies will also fail. I mean, that's the nature of startups all over the world. It has nothing to do with Kenya. That happens everywhere. I mean, it's a high-risk game. And that's one of the reasons we provide this junior tranche to, again, take away some of the risk and make it more attractive for the private sector and other public sector investors to come into these funds.
I mean, you speak about prosperity and all these businesses are growing in the long term, but it is also a high-risk game as well. So what are some of the gaps that you've seen as EIB, and perhaps how then do you get into giving these funds, knowing of these risks, and helping entrepreneurs to address these risks so that their businesses do not go down in the long run?
Yeah, it's two things again. So we have our grant element, our technical assistance element, that is part of Boost Africa, and this is open to the fund managers, but also to the entrepreneurs. So the entrepreneur directly can benefit from this program by getting grant money to focus on certain areas. But also the venture capitalist itself, as I explained, is very much involved in not running the company. I mean, the CEO of the company will run the company. But if you get a venture capitalist on board, I mean, there are different models. They're not all the same. But in general, a venture capitalist is quite an active part of let's say management, at least of the board, where they on a monthly basis would steer and help and guide the company to take the right decisions, to remain efficient, to maybe be aware of competitive threats or to show opportunities and to help them open a network. Very often an entrepreneur has a great idea but might not know everybody in Kenya or Nairobi or in Mombasa or wherever he is setting up his business. He might not know everyone that he needs to know to be successful. Venture capitalists have a history and a track record of and have a bigger team to be able to open those doors for them. And I mean that's the model that it should that hopefully increases the probability that these companies are successful. That's what I would.
How's the trajectory like when you started and now? Do you see more businesses in Kenya jumping on these facilities that are available? And if not, then how do we ensure that most businesses get on it?
Yeah, I think the venture capital. I mean, venture capital is not new in Kenya. I'm not. So it has been around. I mean, Kenya is one of the hubs in Africa. The economy is very open. The private sector in Kenya is very strong, very dynamic. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that have great ideas. The population is highly educated, English speaking. I mean, there's a lot going for Kenya. So venture capital has been around for a long time. We at the bank have invested in 178 funds in Africa, more than 3.2 billion euros over the last decades. So we started actually investing in venture capital in the 90s. So that shows in Africa. So it's been around for a long time. What we're trying to do with this program is to grow the venture capital market further, to make it more liquid, to provide more capital. There's no lack of ideas. There's no lack of opportunity. There is a lack of capital. We as public sector investors can also not do it on our own. What we need to do is attract other investors, private sector investors in general, to provide this liquidity. What I would love to see in Africa and also in Kenya is actually seeing, you have very big companies here in Kenya, certainly here, pension funds, insurance companies, asset managers, and they put very little money at work in risk capital. They like to do much more risk-averse or safer investments, and that's very different in other parts of the world. So if we could find ways, and we hope that Boost Africa is one of those ways, to attract those big money managers, basically, to put some of their money, even if it's 1% of what they manage, that would already make a huge difference. In terms of, do we see an increase in people approaching venture capitalists? Yes, it is growing. It is a growing market. I think, and it will continue to grow. But I would love to see it grow faster. And we need. I mean, if you look at statistics in Kenya, every year 1 million youth enters the job market. I understand only 200,000 people of them find a formal job. That leaves 800,000 people to fight for themselves. If some of these people could start their own business, or many of these people could start their own business, and hopefully create jobs for others by setting up a successful company, I think it would be very positive. So this program is also aiming to support that. Of course, in a small way, but.
In noticing where insurance companies or pension funds who have this, largesse in terms of funds that are available, of course you've noticed that because there's some kind of study that has been done. Why do you think then that they're risk averse? What has come to your mind?
Well, I think the positive explanation could be that they just don't know about the industry. Mm-hmm. It's new. It's maybe they're not fully aware. That could be one explanation. But I think another explanation is that it is seen as I said, as risky. Mm-hmm. As you said, there's always stories about companies going bankrupt. So people might think, I could lose my money. Mm-hmm. And whilst there are no guarantees, I think if you invest in a fund, and certainly if you invest in more funds, you spread your risk not into one or two companies, you spread it over tens of companies, potentially hundreds of companies. We've been investing in tens of thousands of companies across the world. We are investors all over the world. And if you then look at a portfolio level, you will make a return, a positive return. So you're not only supporting, you're not only doing good for your own company, for your own country, for your own entrepreneurs, but you're actually also making a return. So I think some education needs to be done, or some, let's say, familiarization for these big money managers in Kenya to let's say, get acquainted with the sector, because I think the risks are more perceived than that they are real. And if you look at South Africa, for example, in South Africa, there's plenty of big companies investing in private equity and in venture capital. In fact, some South African companies are investing also in funds based in Kenya. Mm. So I think, and in Europe and in the US and in Asia, this is happening all the time. So I think it's a process. And again, I hope that Boost Africa can make a little dent in that by showing that the risk is not as high as it is, and even if there is some risk, we are taking any of the first losses. So yeah, I think it's a process. It's familiarization, but yeah, and it would also be great, as I said earlier. Maybe some government incentives would be good. Even in Europe, that's what we've done to incentivize money managers to look into your own economy and your own startups, because it might be easier for a pension fund to say, I'll buy a big infrastructure bond issued by the government, or I'll buy something which looks very safe. But yeah, that doesn't necessarily support your own thriving private sector.
What would some of these incentives look like? For example, if we were playing in that place where, all right, because I see what you mean is that in terms of possible capital floating around that could essentially, be part of these venture capital funds, then one would say, okay, so what does it do for me? And that's, I think, connected to the question I asked earlier, that in terms of government infrastructure, in terms of spaces where things like that would happen, if the government sees the need or understands the need to have capital available to entrepreneurs, then you can give incentives to some of these pension funds. You see what I'm saying? I can see the connection. What would such an incentive look like?
Well, there's many different ways, many different options. One is the route we're choosing, which is to go for, let's say, we're taking away some of the risk by investing in a junior tranche or a subordinated tranche. So that could be a way the government could set up its own investment vehicle. The government could maybe give tax breaks if you put some of your money into this part of the economy. I also would go back to my initial statement that I think just being very transparent, having a stable, predictable regulatory framework, and so people know what will be the policy for the next few years, and stick to it. Be transparent in how the rules are applied. And again, this is not only Kenya. This is a worldwide thing. This is by being more predictable, more stable, you will attract more capital. And there are many other ways that you could think of, but it's really up to the government in each country what works best for their in their country.
What makes Africa, because in your earlier statement you talked about this perceived risk when you talk about Africa as a continent and versus the real risk. You look at African countries and you compare them to other countries and other continents. What is it that you feel is the perceived risk when people have not landed here? Because we've had cases where people assume that this is how Kenya is, this is how Africa is, it's a bad place to go and invest. Until they come, then they see things are different. You said you've been here for two and a half years, and you're loving it here. But you must have had a perceived idea before coming. But when it comes to investment, what is it that then makes Africa appear that way in the minds and in the plans of investors?
Yeah, it's a good question. As I said, some of the risks I think are perceived. Some of the risks are real, or let's say some of the drawbacks are still there could be improvements made. I think it's it's not an easy question to answer, but when we look at if we look at our portfolio, it's performing better than you would think, and also. So one of the aspects is that, as I said, if you spread your risk across many companies, it's okay if some companies don't make it, as long as it's being made up by the well-performing companies. And this is, I think, what the opportunities in Africa are huge. So some of our outliers are also doing very, very well. If people have found a way to offer a product or a service which is very needed in the market, we see fast growth in these companies. So by investing in a number of companies, you can on balance, have a well-performing portfolio. So that's where I think if you just listen to the one or two companies that go bankrupt, or where maybe there has been some negativity, that maybe blurs the picture of how the whole segment and the whole sector works. So I think that is one thing that you will only realize if you are investing in the market and be exposed to the companies here. It's difficult to see. I mean, I do stick to, maybe it's a bit boring to repeat, but it is sometimes from outside seen as kind of like, is it stable? Is it the rule? Is the government stable? Well, in Kenya certainly it is. But is it? Are all the policies stable? Do we know how much tax we will pay this year? Do we know if that's the same next year? If you can't do those numbers before people generally investors and business owners like to be able to predict what how the next 5 years look like. And I think there are steps can be made in terms of being transparent, being predictable and stable in terms of how those policies are implemented.
You mentioned that it's critical for large fund managers and big businesses to be part of this entire conversation. But if you come to Kenya, pretty much you find big companies don't want to get into it, or rather are slow into uptaking it. What would be the reason, and how then would, in terms of government as well, working together with the private sector and other investors in this sector, work together to make it easier, to make it attractive to these big fund managers? Yeah. Well, I mean, big companies not innovating, that's not only an issue here, that's a worldwide issue, right? I mean, monopolies or people with a dominant market share generally are happy with the money they make and often are not incentivized to keep innovating. I mean, I'm sure there are examples in Kenya you can think of. But that's a global issue. That's everywhere the same. Government has a role there to play, in my view, to make sure these monopolies are either broken up or at least incentivize and make it easier for competition to compete. And so that I think is that's a global issue. Big companies generally don't innovate as much as startups, and this is why I think the government should really focus on giving incentives to startups and what do startups need? They need money, and how do we get more money? By incentivizing fund managers and asset managers to provide this capital. So that I think is what would be very helpful if there could be improvements made there.
So for folks who put their money into these funds, and I'm assuming that it's made up across board of individuals, groups of people who say, okay, well, here's some money I'm going to put into this thing, and you as the fund managers decide where it goes based on the process. Just as there's no guarantee that the business is going to succeed, there is also no guarantee for the folks who are putting their money in. Are they aware of this going in as they put their money in, that it's possible you could not get a return, or that your money goes into the system and disappears?
Yeah, they should be made aware. I would say in venture capital firms, yes, there are some private individuals who invest. It is generally, we call them, let's say, angel investors maybe, or even family offices. So they are considered sophisticated investors. So they should know. I mean, venture capital, that's another thing to note about venture capital. You can't just invest in a fund and half a year later say, you know what, I'm bored of it, I want my money out. Right. You'll have to wait 10 years, right? So funds generally run for 10 years. So it is a long-term game. Which allows for these startups to spend, to use the money for 5-7 years to grow their businesses. So it's high risk. People investing in firms, in funds here, have to be made aware that this is high risk. You might lose your money. That should be part of the regulation and part of, let's say, the communication done by the fund manager.
So you look at Kenya's venture capital and it's maturing rapidly, and just a little bit tweaking, especially with government support, policy changes, it is expected to grow even further. So just in terms of where you sit, how do you look at the situation in terms of venture capital businesses in Kenya and the trajectory it's taking?
So it's definitely growing, and we also, or maybe coming back to Boost Africa, so the first program, even though we have completed it, these funds are still looking for more capital and certainly looking for more money for more companies to invest in. So the program is still active for another 2 or 3 years. But we have already discussed a successor program. So we expect to launch it next year. The European Investment Bank, together with the European Commission, it would be more than double in size. So very good news for Kenya, very good news for Africa and for the entrepreneurs here. And this is, and in addition, just a general market, because of course the Boost Africa and EIB is just a part of the market, that the market I think will continue to grow. I think it's unstoppable. There's a huge, the economy, Africa is some of the fastest growing economies in the world. So the opportunities here will only continue to rise. What all we try to do is to grow it faster, because there is a lot of need for more jobs, for more companies to be started and to be successful. But I see a very positive future. It just I'd like to see it go faster.
What would that take for that to happen? Because we're trying to make it go faster. What does faster mean in this case? That businesses are growing faster, or that more people are getting into the pool? How would that work?
Yeah, I think it's probably. I'm sure all these entrepreneurs try to grow as fast as they can. So I'm not sure. I think it's giving more people the chance to start their business.
Okay.
So by making more money available, there'll be more people who will be able to dip into that pool of capital, and the more companies you can start, the more the percentage game is just that there will be more companies successful as well. So by putting more capital at work, I think there's no lack of entrepreneurs in Kenya. There's no lack of great ideas. There's no lack of education or IT skills or any of that. It's all here. But they are not there, as you said in the beginning. 2% of your global venture capital is coming here, and you have a population representing 18% of the world population. So you're really lagging behind in terms of capital. What is coming here, and this is again what Boost Africa tries to change, and this is why we need much more private sector capital, because the public sector cannot do this on its own. You need so much capital to do this, and this is where your big asset managers, the big firms who sit on a lot of money. It would be great if they can also look at their own startups and their own, let's say, that part of the economy where people really are in desperate need of capital.
I just want to look at it from the government perspective, in the sense that if we have more firms that have received these assistance, venture capitalism, and businesses are growing, that translates to more taxes for the government. I could be wrong, and an economy that thrives. So should this be something that then the government jumps on immediately and not wait?
Yes, it's a win-win situation. There is no downside to this. There's no downside in other parts of the world either. I do not see why there would be a downside to Kenya. In Kenya, I think the government. Okay, there's many things. The government, of course, has many things to take care of, and it might not be a priority area for them now, because there's a lot of other things as well that they need to take care of. But I think it would be a win-win for the government, for the country, for the economy, and for the population, most importantly. For the youth, the program that we have is also very much focused on youth employment, on gender equality. So we're supporting women-led businesses, which is, in Kenya and all over the world, again, parts of Africa, Kenya, all over the world, women are not always playing their full part in the economy. And this is a huge missed opportunity. So again, the Boost Africa program, the Invest in Young Business in Africa program, and the Global Gateway program of the EU are all trying to make a change there as well, by really having a gender focus as well. So the more people you can make active in your economy, the more people that can work, the better it is also for the government. More taxes, as you say, and a happier population.
Have you found that there is any kind of hostility, at whatever degree, whatever level, by governments to then pick up on this idea? Because they still do have to create the environment where this relationship can occur. You can't do this where there is a hostile environment, which might be created by government. How do you deal with that? Or is it a place where we say, okay, we're just not going to go into this particular market?
No, I haven't felt any hostility. The government has a lot of things on its plate. So, but also our program, the program we have, of course, is private sector focused.
Yes.
So I didn't go out. The government has to approve it. When we invest in a fund, I will get a non-objection from the government.
Okay.
But in general, it's between me and the fund managers, and the fund manager then to the entrepreneur. So there is no government involvement. I think and there is, of course, a framework in place here, but it's not as conducive to venture capital as it could be.
Okay.
In Africa, for example, many fund managers set up their headquarters in Mauritius. Mauritius is a very conducive environment for fund managers. And if I would be the Kenyan government and if I would have the time, I would think maybe some of the business should come here. Why not? The companies are here, the youth are here, the population is here. That you have so much already in favor of Nairobi and Kenya in general as a hub.
Yeah.
Why not take part of that pie as well?
Sure. So finally, are there areas that are hot ticket areas, for example, whereby you say, okay, well, if you're going into tech, if you're going into agriculture, if you're going into fast-moving consumer goods, those will be the ones whereby folks will be looking for you, essentially, to invest in your business. Do you find that this happens here as well?
Yeah, as I said, I think all sectors are. The program has a focus on digital the connectivity, on climate solutions, fintechs, healthcare, education. So the program is quite wide. And the best opportunities could come from anywhere, even as Dennis said, from manufacturing, which is maybe an old-fashioned type of sector. And Kenya is trying to make indents in the manufacturing sector, and we've seen some success stories there as well. So, as I said earlier, we really leave it up to the local fund managers. The people based here in Nairobi, they're Kenyans. They know the market. They've grown up here. They have the networks. They know everybody. And it's up to them to try and find the best opportunities. I'm not going to sit here and judge where I think the best opportunities should come from.
Sure.
And when is the next enrollment for Boost Africa? And how can then anyone who's interested make an application?
So you can go to our website where there's the EIB website where there's a link to the Boost Africa website as well. It's an ongoing. At the end of the day, what we would do is put you in touch with the fund managers, right? And yes, we've invested in 6 funds through the Boost Africa program, but we have almost 200 funds that we've invested in. So an entrepreneur in general will know its way around. If not, as I said, he can come to our website and we'll put him in touch with the fund manager who will then evaluate his business plan and his ambitions and see if that fits with the fund. As I said, the current program will still be investing in new opportunities. I would expect for at least another 2 years, maybe longer, because some of these funds are just starting, and in general they spend 5 years to deploy their capital. So if they started earlier this year, they still have another 4 years to go, and they might go a bit faster. And hopefully by the end of next year, we have the second program already up and running. So there should be seamless, let's say, opportunity for people to benefit from the program.
From that moving forward. All right. It's progressive stuff.
It's progressive stuff. It's
Thank you for just being with us, having this conversation, of course, opening eyes to the realities and then, of course, the nitty-gritties of these processes. Edward Claassen is the head of the Regional Hub for East Africa. The European Investment Bank has been with us this hour, looking into all about venture capital for Africa's entrepreneurs. There's a lot to be happening. Thank you for being here in the hot seat of the Situation Room and for having this conversation with us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this Wednesday. More conversations continue into the next coming days. It's 10:02. Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. Former Interior CS Fred Matiang'i has accused the government of neglecting its responsibility to protect Kenyans as the whereabouts of 2 Kenyan activists who went missing in Uganda 30 days ago remain unknown. Bomb Jagi and Nicholas Oyo, who'd joined Uganda's opposition politician Bobi Wine's campaign trail, were forced into a vehicle in Kampala by 4 armed men believed to be Uganda's security operatives. Speaking to Spice FM, Matiang'i